Oh boy, hi, welcome my Imperium to this talk with Pontius and Pio. Welcome, guys. Welcome, guys.
A very tired morning, to be honest.
Yes, for those of you that don't know, Pontius and Pio had a pretty long stream with Archcast last night, and I was chasing a mosquito, which is a very valiant which is a very a thing of valor, I wanted to say. I'm kidding, but yeah, it's horrible chasing mosquitoes during this time of year. So we both did something too late, and now we need a lot of stimulants. But we are ready. So what makes the Pontius say the Warhammer 40K lore YouTubers are a disgrace? We're gonna take a look at this very infamous video by this
Pay
point.
attention because I never said lore YouTubers. It is a misconception that I so many people say it is a 40k YouTubers, not lore only, because there isn't only lore YouTubers involved in it.
Oh yes, we actually correct. Maybe I'm gonna change that in the title, but because people connect, false information with lore YouTubers, that is also why it makes it a bit relevant, although it's not exactly accurate. But for the freaking YouTube algorithm, we'll see if I should remove or leave that there. Okay, so welcome guys. Before we start, because this is a very long video, we have to keep it as tight as possible. I'm going to, of course, welcome all the people, and then we continue right away. So, dear Clayton, one of my Primarchs, man of culture who is also a cultured man. Yasto, Jake, that was last night, so a lot of people just joined last night. Mr. YouTube, Thomas, now the Finchkin is here, and of course Yasto again. Ave Empress, Ave to you. Oh, that's a very funny Finch. What the pumping jack is going on here? That's something from another stream. Okay, guys, so let's start. We play the video, we watch, we comment. You can stop me at any minute. I will stop at any minute if I need to, but for the most part, we're gonna keep this as tight as humanly possible. Okay, are you ready?
Yeah, we can go.
All right. And should we skip the intro, by the way?
Yeah, why not? Yeah,
Greetings, esteemed
the intro was more
simply abysmal.
Yeah, the intro was more made to give an introduction to who we were, just so people couldn't say, "Oh, but who the fuck are you? Like, why are you talking of other YouTubers and such?" So,
Okay, then
people
let's...
at this point know we can skip it.
I mean, skip the intro or leave it?
Yes, no, skip it.
Okay. I'm gonna start from this.
What the fuck I'm talking about?
That is it.
And before you leave an angry comment under the video, keep in mind that Luetin is not on the cover for lore accuracy, but for another big problem that in my opinion discredits much of his own work. So, we'll get to him, just wait until then.
In fact, I was wondering why he was in the middle of a bunch of inaccurate lore channels.
I won't waste time in this video to thank people, they already know how appreciated they are anyway,
Yeah,
but there is a little backstory to give as to why this video is being made. Now, for the people that hanged around the channel for a while, they will either have seen my post about a series called Lore Destroyers, or the recent first episode containing some of the best moments of it. Lore Destroyers is a series of videos, in long form and unedited, that is entirely contained to the Patreon of the YouTube channel. It is very simple in concept. Me and Pio, and usually even our narrator, meet up once a week with the members of the Patreon and watch videos that the Patreons themselves are sent in for us to watch. Usually lore videos by either big or small creators, with either good or bad opinions, or good or bad levels of lore accuracy. We are pretty much lore reviewers for the members of the Patreon. Now that I explained that, I want everyone to know that this video was made because of the Lore Destroyer series. The Patreon at the time of this video has 15 episodes published, and there is a common theme in all of them. The quality of both big and small YouTubers that we are asked to review for lore accuracy is, to put it simply, abysmal. The bar of lore accuracy for everything that we have watched for the Patreon until now is so low that by this point it is sleeping with the corpse of Barabbas D'Antioch.
Again, we are not counting Luetin in this. He's in the video for another reason.
And now, not only we will spend our time to show you how inaccurate and wrong some of these YouTubers are, Even if, trust me, some in my opinion are deliberately lying about the lore to push their own political agenda. But we will put to bed a lot of myths that many of these same YouTubers are perpetrated over the years. Now, keep in mind before we start, I don't consider myself the only expert on Warhammer 40K on YouTube or in life in general. Very far from that. I am an expert, Pio is an expert, many other people are experts. In fact, there is many in our Discord that I consider on our same level of knowledge when it comes to 40k. This just before somebody thinks this video is made out of arrogance. No, it isn't. I don't even dislike many of the YouTubers that we will talk about today, but I feel that as sources of information, and I am speaking of all of us, we have a duty to be as impartial and as precise and correct as humanly possible. So, know that the standards I am applying to all of the people that will be featured in this video, I am also applying to myself, and I expect that you will apply them to me in the same way. It is why in every single one of our lore videos, we feature the sources used for the video in the description, so that if you think we are wrong, you know exactly where we looked for the lore we explained in the video. And to make how I feel as clear as possible, I took a clip from a video of Louis Rossmann that explains it in the perfect way.
But I don't want you to get the idea that I expect you to trust me. I want you to apply the same standard to me that I'm asking you to apply to everybody else, even the people that are telling you what you want to hear. Always demand information, always demand primary sources, always demand proof, and if they can't provide it, stop listening to them, even if what they're saying supports the way that you see the world and your pre-existing biases.
So, now that everything is clear, we can start. And where to start if not with some of the biggest creators of Warhammer 40k? We will start with Wes Hammer. Now, for reference, for the Lord Destroyers episode where we watched Wes Hammer, we were sent very old videos coming from his TikTok, where he talked about how the retcon of female Space Marines, if it happened, wouldn't really matter, how he didn't care one way or another, and where he used objectively stupid examples to try and justify it.
But the lore changes all the time, and a lot of the new stuff is pretty good. My perspective in the universe of the Grimdark, where there's nothing but war, enemies on all sides, the Imperium is constantly strapped for resources. From my perspective, anybody that can hold a gun, men, women, children, doesn't matter. You're on the front line. If it happens, awesome, I'm on board. If it doesn't, whatever. I understand the people who want their Space Marines to remain a sausage party. I honestly get the appeal of the brotherhood of Space Marines. But if you use the lore as an argument against them, why aren't you doing rants against the Primaris? Or Gilliman being resurrected? Dreadnoughts that can be piloted by a living host? Or literally anything involving call. So if you didn't know, the idea of female Space Marines is pretty controversial in the 40k community. A lot of the lore purists out there point to the Sisters of Battle saying, we don't need female Space Marines, we've got sisters. But let's be real. The sisters are awesome, I love them. But they have nowhere near the diversity or the attention paid to them by Games Workshop as the Space Marines do. The Space Marines have tons of different legions and tons of different lore, and no matter who you are, you can find a Space Marine legion that resonates with you. Because they're all super different. The sisters, not so much. Lore purists like to say that there's no reason for them to exist from the lore's perspective. But my man Fabby Spile right here has been creating a whole new race of people that are genetically superior to Space Marines. And the women in it are super badass and even stronger than the males. He also was quoted as saying, I will never understand the Emperor's decision to bestow his gifts on only one half of the human population. It was hinted at in his most recent book that he's working on a Chaos equivalent to Primaris. So Chaos might actually be getting female Space Marines first, proving once again Chaos is far more inclusive than the Imperium. Personally, I want to see women represented in the Space Marine legions. But I get it if you want your Space Marines to just be beefcakes all the time. I just want my legion to be an armor-clad sausage party. Jokes aside, I genuinely understand. I get the attraction to the fraternity. I understand all the memes about brothers. What I truly don't understand, though, is the argument that it goes against the lore. Because the game's been around for 30 years. The lore's changing all the time. Some of it for the better, some of it for the worse. Backgrounds created tyrannous, that's ridiculous. But if your argument against them is only because of the lore, why don't you have a problem with the Primaris Marine? Because they go against the lore too. They were created by Call, not the Emperor. And tinkering with the Emperor's designs is heresy. You don't have a problem with these things, or Gilliman coming back, or the Eldar gods, or Space Marines having friggin' grab tanks. And don't get me wrong, I've met people that have a problem with all these things. It seems like the loudest voices are just complaining about women Space Marines. Number one, he's right. I've been wrong before. I'm a huge Warhammer fan, but I'm not an expert. I've read all the codexes for multiple editions. I've read like 85 of the books. But there's over 600, so I'm still learning new stuff every day. And when I find out new information, I either make an update video or correct myself in the comments. TikTok won't let me edit a video that's already been posted, though.
But by word of mouth, long before even thinking of this video, I heard that Wes Hammer has made a promise to be more accurate canonically and explore and explain the universe better when it comes to lore and canon. Because of that, me and Pio decided to go and watch his video on the retcon of the Terminus Decree. And I must say, he might be a bit better at explaining the lore and being just slightly more accurate than he was in the past, but I couldn't help but notice that he has some of the worst approaches to lore I've ever seen in my entire life. This entire video was nothing but trying to find an excuse for the lazy and, to be honest, very shitty writing of Games Workshop.
If I set all of my biases aside, and I'm being extremely generous, the research notes from Basilophone and the Anti-Astartes bioweapon is technically never explicitly said to be what the Terminus Decree is. It's all just heavily implied, with an admittedly extremely on-the-nose heavy hand. If Games Workshop was to come out and say that that was all just a misdirection, don't worry, the bioweapon, the research notes, that's all still canon, that's being held somewhere on Titan, but we never technically said that's what the Terminus Decree was, and don't worry, here in 10th edition, we're finally telling you what it actually is. As much as I hate to do it, fine. For the sake of the argument, in this moment, I'll buy into that and give them the benefit of the doubt. That maybe this really had been what Games Workshop was planning for the Terminus Decree for over a decade. Maybe this really isn't a retcon. Full disclosure, I don't believe that for a second, but alright, let's go with it.
Now, don't get me wrong, many times Wes Hammer said in the video that he was being the devil's advocate. But at the same time, I don't see him pointing the blame directly against Workshop for how many times they have fucked up the lore in the last few years. The Primaris, Female Custodes, the Terminus Decree, the lore about the aspirants of the Grey Knights. Because in the same codex where the retcon happened about the Terminus Decree, there is another piece of lore that explains how because of the Cicatrix Maledictum, the recruits of the Grey Knights have thinned out. They don't have as many, and because of that they are, and I'm quoting the codex here, attacking Imperial institutions and other Space Marine chapters to steal their aspirants and psychically sensitive recruits, to then hide evidence of their own actions. I hope I don't have to explain how dumb this retcon is. This is Badab war level heresy. If anything like this canonically happened, so many people would openly go against the Grey Knights that they would end up annihilated. And even then, do you want to know why this retcon makes no sense whatsoever? Because of the entire story of the Psychic Awakening. Because of the Cicatrix Maledictum, the quantity of human-born Psykers in the Imperium of Men has grown considerably. So even if the galaxy is cut in half, the Grey Knights should either feel just a slight drop in recruits, or no difference whatsoever. At least not on the level to have to attack other Space Marine chapters to steal their psychic recruits. Which I would argue wouldn't even be that many. The chapters of Space Marines don't recruit Psykers specifically. The newly inducted initiates are introduced in the Librarium if they show potential. But the chances that it happens at all are minimum on a good day. And there is zero guarantee that these aspirants will even be compatible with Grey Knight's gene seed. They were screened for compatibility with their original chapter of recruitment, not them. So canonically the Grey Knights are probably killing dozens of Space Marines, best case scenario, to steal 1 or 2 recruits from every attack. And those recruits have even a minimal chance to survive the basic induction on Titan. I hope I don't have to explain more to make you understand how fucking nonsensical all of this is. And this has been happening for years. If Wes
Yeah, unfortunately, the opinion of Wes Hammer, at least at the time, I don't believe it has changed at all, because seeing how many people like him have acted, like, I don't think he has changed his opinion on it. The main problem with Wes Hammer is that he discounts what the lore truly is in exchange for what he thinks it should be, without even considering that maybe the view he has on it might be wrong. The main thing about his claim about female Space Marines is that, in his opinion, like, the change done with the Primaris was inconsequential and only some people got angry about it. Fucking no. A good chunk of the community was very angry about the entirety of the thing. Pretty much, I will say, I've met more people that dislike Primaris for the longest time that have been part of the 40k community than people that like them. Because generally, the Primaris are a big downgrade for everything, for aesthetics, for lore, for characters even. Like many Primaris characters are pretty shitty, like to the point that they had to start upgrading the pre-existing interesting characters into Primaris. So his entire story is, why don't you have a problem with this? When the entirety of the fucking community had a problem with that. Now there is less because it has been years, but at the time it was a pretty big scandal.
Yeah.
Even right now, there are a lot of people that hate it.
Oh boy. Well, I mean, a lot of the things that he said, I should have stopped it there because he just said so many things, are like ridiculous excuses to me about, how things could be because Fabius Bile makes very badass women warriors. I mean, it's Fabius Bile, so he can do whatever he wants. That doesn't mean that this has to be applied to the Imperium in general. I don't see the logic in some evil guy doing his, Frankenstein experiments, whatever, and the Imperium, then they can totally do the same. Why not? I mean, he's on his own. So, of course, this is the way of the writers to experiment maybe with some ideas through Fabius Bile, but for the love of God, that doesn't mean that you have to apply this to the whole Imperium. It's just ridiculous argument to me. I mean, there are many that he just stacked them up in what you played, so I don't even remember all of them, but
It's TikTok old videos. It is pretty much brain rot disguised as 40k content. But generally, you will see it. It is used more than once as an argument. Oh yeah, Fabius Bile could do it. Everyone says he could do it, but nobody ever stopped to think if he should do it. Like even his logic behind his new race, the new men, is that mainly he doesn't like. Space Marines, he considers them, once again, as I say more than once in the video, genetical dead end, and those are his words, not mine. And generally, he's more of the opinion that super soldiers can be useful, but the only way of making humanity pretty much survive and thrive in the galaxy is by manipulating humans themselves, not make superior versions that you need to mass produce like the Space Marines. And it is pretty much the logic behind the new men. There are many people that go, oh yeah, the new men are genetically superior to Space Marine. The new men are superior to Space Marine. They aren't. They are completely and utterly fucking inferior to the point that they need to pretty much do further genetical enhancements and need to hunt in packs just to be on the same level. But at the same time, they are not made to be weapons like Space Marines. They are made to be enhanced humans that can survive in the Milky Way galaxy. That's why they are not like genetical monsters like the Astartes are. And that is what Fabius Bile wanted to achieve. Because he doesn't think that super soldiers are good. He thinks that humanity needs to be upgraded, not made into super soldiers.
Okay, so basically a huge misconception can be formed from all of this.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on.
Warhammer thought that this retcon was the only bad one. I must wonder how active he is lore-wise. In this same video, Warhammer talks about how instead we should give props to Games Workshop, because keeping straight the lore of the 40k universe is no easy task, and they have done at least a good job with it. And I'm quoting Warhammer here.
I'm well aware that here on the internet, when you're talking about Warhammer, the safest opinion to have is always going to be the one that criticizes Games Workshop. The YouTube algorithm loves outrage more than it does thoughtful critique. But normally, I'm not that kind of guy. I always like to give credit where it's due. And the truth is, GW doesn't get enough credit for how consistent they usually are. Yes, sloppy retcons happen, but when you compare their missteps to the sheer mountain of lore 40k has built over the decades, I'd argue they handle the continuity better than almost any other franchise of this size. Look at the big comic book universes, for example. There's constant retcons, collapsing timelines, reboots every few years, alternate dimensions, and far too many time travel resets. 40k never did that. Sure, it can be a convoluted, impenetrable mess at times, but it never threw up its hands and said, well, we lost the plot. None of this is canon anymore, time for a reboot. Instead, they just keep stacking more books on the pile. 10 more every month, year.
Okay, I just want to say that, yeah, the fact that the comic book, all the comic books and everything, the fact that they pooped on everything, by this point they ruined both Marvel and DC, doesn't mean that what 40k is doing is great. I mean, just because one thing is very bad doesn't mean that the other one is great or their ways are justified. So this is
Yeah, and to be honest, he's completely ignoring though the fact that Warhammer Fantasy was killed to make space for Warhammer Age of Sigmar. It's the same thing that happens with comic books.
Well, yeah, but
Yeah,
again, people just like to put, because I have a lot of observations, but in today's time, whatever we say, and then there's always going to be someone that's gonna say, but it's not that bad because someone else did something worse. I'm like, again, the two things stand on their own. If one thing is bad, doesn't mean that that makes the other thing better. Like, ridiculous logic. Yes, Pew?
yeah, but I'll say that Warhammer needs a reboot right now. Remove just everything after the fall of Cadia and it turns good again.
I mean, at that point, remove even the fucking Fall of Cadia. Just start working backwards. 999 and 41 is the year where the most fucking stuff happens in 40k, and it is ridiculous.
Yeah.
All right. Continue.
After year. Look, I don't like every single change they've made over the years in 40k. I don't have to, and neither do you. All of that is subjective. But I still think it's worth giving some credit to the authors, considering just the sheer ludicrousness of how much they have to juggle when writing these books. From my perspective, if they get a 98 or 99% accuracy rating, then that's still an A. I'm not gonna get hung up on every little detail or inconsistency.
Weshammer, what kind of 40k universe have you lived in for the last few years? Games Workshop being good at keeping the story straight? Removing the amounts of small inconsistencies that you can find in all works of Games Workshop, they are not even close to 50% consistency by this point. Take the Primaris as a retcon, for example, because they are a retcon. Do you guys know what happened when the Primaris were announced and became forced into canon? And I'm talking before the 4 years of novels that it took before their lore became even acceptable as canon. When the Primaris released, the lore was that the new Primaris gene seed cured all of the curses and genetic mutations of all chapters and progenitor Primarchs that still afflicted their own sons. So yeah, when they became canon, you could say goodbye to the Wolfen, to the Red Thirst, to the Black Rage, to any other kind of mutation that made chapters unique. This...
I just have one question. I mean, according to you, what makes the Primaris a retcon? And not an addition to the lore, or just, an addition, yeah, something that happened, whereas the previous lore still stands. What? Yeah.
Because by their own introduction, pretty much they appeared out of nowhere. There were the unnumbered sons, which were 9 legion-sized forces, were only hidden on Mars. So pretty much, just imagine 9 entire giant fucking armies of space marines just spawning on Mars. Nobody has ever seen them. Nobody knew anything about them. Belisarius Cole wasn't even that much of a character before them, but then he became the most important person ever made in the history of humanity and such. Unfortunately, when it comes to the Primaris, their main introduction is what makes them a retcon, because there was no build-up, there was nothing set up. You just had Cadia fell, super space marines appeared. Instantly, like it was like being in Minecraft. Night comes and mobs start spawning, but in this case 9 legion-sized forces just came out of Mars and nobody knew they were there. I wonder how in the fuck Belisarius Cole kept them hidden.
So basically the Primaris are like a surprise riding mechanic. I'm using a video game term, Bertha. Well, I didn't thought about that because I got into the lore a bit later, so by that time they're already there, and I was like, oh, upgraded Primaris. But upgraded Astartes. We already talked about this many times with our previous streams, but I see your point. Okay, let's continue.
Was changed when an uproar happened in the community, because everyone rightfully pointed out that at this point we were just playing reskinned Ultramarines, and when Games Workshop realized how much they fucked up with a change in lore so big, they re-retconned the already retconned Primaris lore just to reinsert all of the curses and mutations back in. Great planning, Games Workshop. You should go in the corner and be ashamed of yourself. But this video created a big question in my mind. One of the main points Wes Hammer brings in the video is that the reveal, for how stupid it is, of the new Terminus Decree, because props to him, he does mention that it was pretty much confirmed what the Terminus Decree was in the final books of the Siege of Terra with the story of Basilio Foe. In his opinion, required at least a good novel, if not multiple, to be brought to light in an appropriate manner, instead of being just thrown as a paragraph in a codex. Now, this is an opinion like any other. In my opinion, the Terminus Decree should have remained a mystery. It is a mystery from over a decade, and whatever they did would have never lived up to the hype. But now I wonder, Wes Hammer, why are you making this argument for the Terminus Decree as a retcon? I looked at the entirety of your channel, and I don't see any video similar to this for the recent travesty of the female Custodes retcon. Now, before anybody screams at me, check on the channel. Watch these 3 videos in order, which are why female Custodes can't exist, the importance of lore, and as the final one, why female Space Marines can't exist. I covered all of this pretty extensively, but the main doubt I have is, seeing that the old video that we covered for Lord Destroyers of Wes Hammer talking about I will be okay with a retcon that inserted in the universe female Space Marines, why didn't he make the same argument for the female Custodians retcon? Added at random in a Custodes codex, contradicting all sources and world building that came before. Again, watch the videos I listed to understand in which way, and that then was made worse by a tweet of Games Workshop confirming that not only now they exist, but that they always existed, spitting in the face of long-running series like the Horus Heresy. At this point I must think that you are not okay with this retcon because it touches something you yourself liked. And yet, you didn't touch the female Custodians one, because it agrees with your own ideology. Things shown once again by the video we were sent for Lord Destroyers.
Okay. Oh, that's a lot. Okay, I just want to say we have our first super chat by Still X Spider for the 5. Thank you. You're getting your Wonder Woman salute. He says, hey Pontius, I found this painting tutorial talk about the Space Marine female heads and how they are female. Oh god, have you any, I mean, do you have any idea, Pontius, what's that about?
It is talking of the recently released kit of additional heads and helmeted heads that Games Workshop has released. Add it to the Patreon list for Lord Destroyers. We'll watch it next time, hoping it is not too long. But generally, when it comes to that specific release, I have also seen marketing from Games Workshop calling the release pretty much, oh yeah, do you want to personalize your own sons? If it is sons, I doubt those are female heads. Mainly, I've seen people make comparisons between the minis by themselves and the way they are painted, because like somebody went and made it completely gray just to mimic how it will be out of the store, pretty much on the sprue. And the main problem is mainly how they were painted. They were painted in a way to reflect more a feminine kind of appearance than a male one. So claiming they are female Space Marines when in their own entire marketing, they're still called sons, and when made completely gray, they look just like Asian heads, is a bit of a reach that probably tore a bit of muscles from the people doing it. They are not female Space Marines. They have feminine traits, but I think it is mainly because of the painting, not even because of the mini. Because painters, together with modelers in Games Workshop, have been renowned to be very shit at painting heads. It is why everyone uses helmets. And even then, the kit is not really that popular. People don't like the heads. They mostly want just the helmeted versions that are included in it. But out of how many? 40 heads, they are like 7. So I don't think that kit will have much success.
Mm-hmm. But that's pretty weird. I never heard of that before. Because, you know, Steel X Spider says that it's like a soft launch. I mean, this
I
is...
have seen zero info saying that it is a soft launch to them. Like generally, and even then, if it is a soft launch to them, they have already failed because people are already calling them out for looking like shit.
Yeah, I just pray to God that they're not gonna really integrate female Space Marine, and this is just for some people that like to have something different. I mean, to cater to their own fantasies, I have no idea. I hope that this is not something definitive. It seems like it's just literally to cater to some particular people, but not to change the lore for that. That's how it seems.
I mean, if the person that made the video thinks that it is a soft launch for female space marines, they can think that. It doesn't make it reality in the end. Because we have zero proof that it is. And generally, to be honest, the heads look so much like shit that I doubt if it is a soft launch that it is going to be successful in any way.
I hope not. Okay, just to say, guys, we definitely cannot address the whole chat. That's impossible in this sort of show. But of course, we will address every super chat. That is mandatory. Because, you know, the Finch King, who is not into the lore, says, are they like shock trooper empress? Which, I mean, to me, no. Jesus Christ. So we can't actually reply to these sort of questions, guys. We just have to reply to the super chats. It's just the way it is. On the gaming streams, you know, it's not like that. But on this type of streams, we have to keep it very tight, especially where the video that we are watching, the Pontius video, is so long and we do have to comment on it. So that's how it is, guys. Okay, continuing if you're ready.
Yeah, it is
I
fine.
just wanted to say, yeah, it's not a soft launch. It's just ads that looks like shit, and just that.
Yeah, well, I just painted my first Custodes like a year ago, and I'm not like super amazing on painting heads myself. I did do one. The rest of the Custodes are pretty good because I'm an artist anyway, so it's not like, you know, it's not that hard for me to get into them, to painting. But yeah, heads are difficult to paint, that's for sure.
Yeah, they're difficult to paint, especially for new people or people that don't have experience. But I'm sure somebody got paid a lot to paint those minis official in 40, like for 40K, because it is official promotional material, and they still painted them like shit. Like so.
Yeah. Okay, and continue.
Sorry for the interruption, but as we were writing this part of the video, something was brought to my attention. Wes Hammer talked about the female custodians debacle in the comments of another video. Obviously, this only reinforces my suspicion that he didn't make a video on this specific topic like he did on the Terminus Decree, because it agrees with his political agenda. But let's see what he said all the same. Firstly, the main comment Wes Hammer is answering to claims that the female custodians are fine. By lore, they are not fucking fine. Watch my video on why they can't exist for more details. But the answer of Wes Hammer, strangely in the first part, agrees with me. Retconning lore through a fucking tweet is extremely dumb, even by Games Workshop standards. Hope the specific community manager got fired or something. Then he claims that the lore of how they were introduced is a mystery. No, Wes Hammer, it is a retcon, not a mystery. They didn't appear in a specific point in time. By claim of Games Workshop, they were always there. There is no mystery, it is just dumb writing. And then he claims that if it was done with Space Marines, that would be a different conversation. Because Space Marines have as their core tenant in their stories their sense of brotherhood. Pio, what is one of the names of the Custodians faction?
Banana Studies.
I mean, yes. But also, Brotherhood of Demigods! And before we get the usual smart guy in the comments that goes, Brotherhood doesn't mean only males. Okay, then explain to me what does Sisterhood mean? Just out of curiosity. The second answer instead is where things get extremely dumb. Wes Hammer, like Major Kill and Bricky did, claims that the female custodians introduced in the 10th edition Custodes Codex have some pretty cool stuff. Pio, ma che cazzo di codex ha letto sto qua?
Non lo so, più leggo questa lore più diventa una merda.
3 dei più grossi youtuber di fottuta lore e tutti e 3 non capiscono un cazzo della lore. È una roba scandalosa. The 10th edition Adeptus Custodes Codex introduces a grand total of 3 officially named female characters. Calladei Starovalia Cash, Bayezzara Gonades, which makes my entire team laugh every time she's brought up, because in Italian gonadi means testicles, and this woman is called a Gonades, and Sister Stateriel. Do you want to know how good their lore is? If you want to know it fully, you will have to watch Lord Destroyers episode 6, where we demolished all of this lore beginning to end. But to give you the short version, Tarovala Cash was part of a blood game that didn't follow any of the rules of any prior blood game for some reason, and their entire plan for the blood game was live in Terra, requisitioning a ship, have a teleporterium installed in it, steal a cyclonic warhead, an exterminatus level bomb from a depot, go back to Terra, and teleport it into the Imperial Palace. Now, removing how dumb and overly complicated this entire plan was, To the point that the lore behind her is literally 2 pages long, and the plan would have 100% failed around here. And the more you read her story, the dumber it fucking gets. Thank you, Games Workshop. So, she didn't obey the ancient rules of the Blood Games. Made a plan so overly complicated that there was no fucking way in hell it would have worked to begin with. And their entire plan was teleporting a bomb in the throne room, when the Imperial Palace is defended by a state-of-the-art system of void shields called the Aegis. And when even the lowliest human soldier knows that teleporting isn't an option against void shields, it is literally the first rule you learn about them. You cannot fucking teleport inside a void shield. You would expect an highly trained expert strategist of the elite of the custodians to know that! But I guess the writer didn't know either. The second custodian is Bayezara Gonades, the inventor of such an incredible military strategy called the Bayezara Constellation, that was so revolutionary as a tactic for fighting that her entire shield company was named after her.
Yes, go Queen Slay.
Do you want to know what the tactic is? The tactic is very simple. Bayezara and her warriors mount their jet bikes as their void ship air brakes across the target's world's atmosphere. The moment drop velocity is achieved, the constellation depart the vessel's launch decks and plunge through the atmosphere like falling stars. And before you think I am making this up, here is the screenshot of the passage. Now, this is all well and good. If it did have any fucking sense behind it, removing the Primarch Vulcan tested the planetary re-entry through an atmosphere when he escaped the clutches of Conrad Kurz. Just saying, he didn't arrive on the surface alive. But even then, these custodians have as a tactic re-entering a planet atmosphere without any kind of inertia dampeners or heat shielding, in literally just their armors and on space fucking bikes. The heat will melt the joints of their armors and burn them to ashes before they even reach the surface. And the third custodian instead is Sister Stateriel. Sister Stateriel died against demons on one of the first engagements of a campaign that by lore has not yet concluded. This is the cool lore of the female custodians, like by Major Kill, Bricky and Weshammer.
I have read better fanfictions with characters named unironically Karen.
So, accuracy, decent. Opinions, completely and utterly nonsensical. Games Workshop is $1 billion company. Stop trying to find excuses and spending your time trying to correct their mistakes. If
Oh yes, absolutely. There's so many, so much information. I'm gonna lose my train of thought. So first of all, let's say thank you to Jack Zayas for the 5. He says no question, just long time fan showing his support. Keep up the good work, ladies and gents. Thank you. You're amazing. Thank you for the contribution to the Imperium. So I'm just gonna go back a little bit, just a little bit. Just a little bit.
or heat shielding, in literally just their armors and on space fucking bikes. The heat will melt the joints of their armors and burn them to ashes before they even reach the surface. And
I'm just shocked by by all the things that do not make any sense. But people are just like, amazing, wow, yes, oh my god, female custodies, let's just lay down and let GW walk over us. It's amazing. Logic. And the
the
second
third
thing,
custodian instead is Sister Stateriel. Sister Stateriel died against demons because even if they will never confirm it,
yeah, the second thing I just want to point out, because again, many things, but at least that I just don't get why people, like you said, will make excuses for billion-dollar companies instead of being like, oh, well, the billion-dollar company should cater to me. They should make sure that the lore is correct, that everything's fine, and that I, as the fan, have a great time with everything, because that's their job. So why should anybody kiss their asses? I'm trying to think like these people, but it's really very hard, because you point out the mistakes and all the stupid things, but they're still like, no, this is great. Just like that meme where the doggy in the room and everything's burning around him, and he sits there on the table and he's like, this is great. I'm like, no, this is not great or fine or whatever. So yeah, quick comment, guys. What do you think?
Generally, I think that the people saying that this lore is great, this lore is fine, this lore makes sense, have not read it, which is very fucking telling for entire channels based on reading the lore
and explaining it to other people. Oh no, it is fine. Even Bricky, no, you have to understand the lore on the female custodian is actually pretty badass, as he said in a video that he now is trying to hide. But generally, this lore made no sense from the beginning to the end, and it shouldn't be our prerogative to keep the universe making sense. Games Workshop is a multi-billion-dollar company. They have their own lore masters, as showed on the series of Warhammer Plus. Now, how competent they are is pretty fucking questionable at this point, but generally, they are paying people to keep a check on the lore, and they are making mistake after mistake after mistake, codex after codex after codex, to the point that it is longer now calling them out for the mistakes than just reading the codex. Jesus. Like, it doesn't take much to keep things in check and make writing make sense. We made a video which is called The Primaris Mistake, that I even showed before, which is pretty much a takedown of the entirety of the Primaris lore and a rewriting that I personally made, that I pretty much proposed in the video, pretty much as saying they could have done it 100 times better by writing it like this. I showed it to everyone the way I would have written it, connecting it to threads that were already there, and pretty much everyone went, yeah, this is the superior version, to the point that even a few days ago, somebody left a comment that I actually saw, one of the few positive ones, because after a major kill response, I started getting hundreds of racist comments about Italians. But somebody wrote, yeah, a lot of people arrived with racist comments, using slurs, or even calling me a Mussolini for some reason. I don't even know.
What?
I don't even get the connection. I'm not even into politics. But anyway, and like a person,
Mussolini.
I'm Mussolini. You're a 40k Mussolini. And I'm like, and I'm like,
Wow.
I'm just asking for 40k lore accuracy, guys. It is not that deep. But somebody left a comment under that specific video, which was, some Italian bloke just came up with a better Primaris lore than the entirety of Games Workshop writing team in his spare time. Let that sink in. So yeah, it doesn't take much talent to correct Games Workshop writing, but it does take still having a working brain.
Yeah, indeed. Pio, what do you think?
Every time I think about this stuff, reminds me of a clip of Tomska, where his friends explodes because of orbs. He's covered in his blood, and he said, "This is fine," and then he drinks on his out of his mug.
Yeah.
It's literally that situation. The friends exploding is 40k.
Yeah,
Thank you, Didier. It is appreciated.
I'm just surprised about the racist
Thank-
comments. I mean, what? I don't get it.
Because when it comes to this kind of stuff, you can be racist against all unprotected categories, but you cannot be against the protected categories. So YouTube doesn't give a fuck that I got hundreds of comments calling me Mussolini, Mario, using very old slurs that I didn't even know existed. I had to look them up, and I found out there is slurs for Italians. And other than that, insulting me in every way possible. But what do you expect from a guy with an audience of children like Major Kill? So
Jesus Christ. Now,
Well,
there is a thing where the whole mindset of people today, and because of the woke stuff that began, mostly prominently after 2016, that people became just emotional, but they don't think. They just have emotions, and then they think and they talk, and most of the time is something that just pure based on that, and no logic and reason, no empathy for another human being, or try to understand why they think the way that they think. Nothing. It's just emotion. So by this point, it's not very hard to dismiss such comments, because they're not coming from an intelligent place of reason, logic, and emotional maturity, but they're coming from a crazy place where chickens run around and hamsters, run around in another direction. It doesn't make any sense. That's the point. So we can continue, guys. We can continue.
I will say the main problem is where they came from in this case, because seeing the way Major Kill responded, removing how he didn't really prove us wrong in anything. If anything, he proved us right on a bunch of stuff. His video was framed pretty much from the beginning, even from the thumbnail, calling me specifically a scumbag and a liar. And he did insult me multiple times throughout the video. So what do you expect when you apply something like that to almost 700 people of public? They will come doing the same. So
Yeah, that's not good. But again, I mean, if you're a person that already has emotional maturity and intelligence. You will listen to that. You will make your own judgments and move on. You're not gonna even comment. So yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, play.
Yeah, this is all
Do
bad
we-
stuff.
Sorry, Pio.
But,
What?
no, this is all bad stuff. But every time I see a comment calling him Mario, I just laugh. Mario is really funny.
Super Mario
It's
explaining
not even
40K.
offensive.
Wahoo!
Mario's the best. It's the best thing that happened to Italian in years.
I mean, I would actually question that because it's not actually dubbed by an Italian. But every time that somebody brings up the fact that, like, oh yeah, Mario is now explaining 40K lore, I always have to ask. So does that make Pio Luigi, or like it is in my opinion, is he Yoshi?
Oh yeah, that's a very good question. Well, we take it here as everybody are fair game to make fun of, as long as we're making fun of ourselves and we don't mean anything bad by it. It's just fun. We have a lot of racist jokes from like 30 years ago that people still say, but nobody actually thinks about them as racist. We're just literally having fun, but it's about what you say and what it means. It's not about that you're using something that will be considered racist today to make a point. So that's not the point. But nobody will take it good, so we can just talk that amongst ourselves in Bulgaria, but just not mention it out loud. Okay, we can continue, guys.
All know when they do make mistakes. And the Terminus Decree is the smallest example of their complete and utter incompetence in the last years.
We are all passionate about lore, but we should at least demand standards from GW when it comes to writing. It seems they are just publishing random stuff at this point.
And now we move to the next one. Arbitorian. To give some context, I never had a strong opinion on Arbitorian. Mainly because I never actively...
I will let Pio mainly comment here because, to be honest, Arbitorian is the part we hated the most to work on because the guy he's not even a lore YouTuber. He's a full-on political commentator talking about lore. And to be honest, Pio has more disdain for him than me.
All right, actually, I never saw this
thank you.
guy. I'm yet to catch up on this guy, so I never saw his content. So that's like
you
more
will see.
interesting to me.
I want to cite Mordi and Glory on this part when he reacted to this video. He skipped like almost everything about Arbitorian because this part is the longest part in the entire video, and he just skipped it, watching how long it was, and just say, "Stop! He's already dead."
No, but generally because he was extremely annoyed by the way Arbitorian presented himself, to the point that he was like, "Yeah, I know people that dislike him. I don't know why." And in a matter that we were into like a minute of this entire part, it was like, "Okay, now I know why."
All right, so Pio, just tell me when to stop, okay?
Okay.
watched him as I was learning 40K. The first videos of his I watched were for Lore Destroyers, where we watched his appearance at IGN as a lore expert to answer popular questions. Which, if you ask me, was completely wasted time. The questions were medium level at best, and nothing a check on the wiki couldn't clarify. The majority of them could be answered by Pio of all people. They didn't need an expert.
I don't know if I should feel flattered or offended.
And removing some grievances I had with some of his answers, like when he answered that the Black Shields are members of a chapter and such that for one reason or another, honorable or not, have left their chapter and joined the Death Watch, completely ignoring that Black Shields were a thing during the Horus Heresy, and they were members of traitor legions that never betrayed the Imperium of Men and stayed loyal. And after the corruption of their former legions, they dyed their pauldron having the insignia of the Legion black out of shame. And his comment, that another YouTuber we will soon talk about called Eons of Battle repeated, that the creation of Space Marines is literal magic. No, it's fucking science and genetical engineering. Want to know more? We explored all of it in the video What is a Space Marine? Go and watch it. I can guarantee to you the word magic doesn't appear in the entire video.
Magic!
But then, I was sent his videos. And oh boy. My opinion went from neutral to straight up Italian anger in a matter of minutes. I will put it in the simplest way I can to explain what I think of Arbitorian. Arbitorian is a liar. Plain and simple. We watched a grand total of 3 videos of Arbitorian for Lore Destroyers, and all of them either lacked context, misrepresented reality, or straight up lied just so he could claim to be right. Let's go in order. The first video we watched was The Case for Female Space Marines, 28 mag challenge. So, let's debunk it claim by claim. The video starts with him obviously already insulting the opposite side, calling them the wrong kind of nerds for being against one of the biggest retcons that could ever happen in
I just have one thing to say. I just remember that actually Chainsword 40K from X, I don't know if you heard of him, but he came out with a lot of information like a year ago about certain GW things. So he sent me actually this guy. I just totally forgot about him. I mean, he did say that there's some woke things in his video, so maybe I want to cover them, but then many things happened, so I never got to it. But yeah, I remember now.
Have fun, because this is going to be a wild ride.
Yep.
40k.
Female Space Marines. Nothing is more likely to get the wrong sorts of nerds clutching their beards in dismay.
He then claims, obviously, after discounting every doubt people have on the matter as mainly sex stream at the agent.
So before we start, we should be aware that a lot of the arguments against female Space Marines are nothing but angry little boys being sexist online. That's often...
I'm pissed. I'm already pissed just because, I mean, so only boys are angry about that. There are no girls in the lore. Okay, I know that we are like 2 people, but still, I'm also angry about this because it's bullcrap. I don't care if they're women or not. If it doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense. So it's not only angry little boys that are angry about this. I mean, there's a reason for that. Jesus Christ. So the guy is a bit sexist without knowing it, basically, because he's excluding everybody that are women in the lore, and he says only men in their basement, only they can be angry about this. Absolutely not, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, when I was there when the female Custodes retcon happened, and on Twitter, the amount of women that were pissed about it was astronomical.
Oh,
And I loved seeing the reaction of the woke side when they were complaining. It varied from threats, pick-me comments, insults, or just calling them pretty much self-hating misogynists. They were calling women self-hating misogynists.
Amazing. How stupid is that? I mean, there's so many arguments that, I mean, that was literally on April. Yeah, in April. So I forgot even, but I basically made a huge deal about it and a whole thesis exactly why they cannot exist and how stupid this is. But I don't get it. I mean, they just keep all the arguments, all the logic, and they're just like, the only reason that you don't like this. No, I explained the reasons, but the only reason that you don't like. But I have my arguments. No, there's no other reason. But you're hating yourself. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh.
Why you hate yourself?
Oh my
My
gosh.
God.
Oh, okay. I mean, if I'm talking to a wood board, it will probably hear me more. That's how it is. And I'm gonna play it, guys. If you're ready.
Yeah, let's go.
the underlying thing going on.
That the
What is
limitation that Space Marine chapters cannot recruit females because of the genetical composition of gene seed is very rarely mentioned.
First, because it changes the background. Okay, fine. Yeah, it would. The current fluff states that only a small proportion of people can become Space Marines. They must be male because zygotes are key to male hormones and tissue types. There you go. No female Space Marines. But it's worth saying that this isn't stated very often. It appears in this old issue of White Dwarf, but that's kind of it.
Now, you can watch my video on this matter, because I spent a full hour dismantling all the arguments of people that advocate for this retcon in every way possible, just in case you want to know more. But I challenge you to check in every single edition of a Space Marine Codex and look under the recruitment section. I'm sure you will find the paragraph that for one reason or another limits recruitment to only males. In fact, the only codex in recent times that doesn't have it is Horus Heresy 3.0. And everyone got angry about that, because the line was moved from the recruitment section into another section of the codex. So, we're already catching lies here, Arbiter. Let's go on.
Also, even if it was stated one time that there can only be men as Space Marines, that's enough. It's there. It's not have been like changed. it's there. So I don't get the amount of time that this is mentioned matters, even if it was once, but it's mentioned a lot, which is even more, which is even better. But the point
A
is,
problem that we noticed with Arbitorian is that he seems to jump from taking sources from first edition and then directly from the 9th, because this video is a bit old, like I don't think 10th edition was out yet, but like, and both me and Pio were like, when we were watching him, can you stop trying to get proof that you are right from the first edition that by this point is considered so different from 40k that it's considered a separate universe? Because he does it all the time. It is either first edition or 9th edition. Like, there is nothing in between that he mentions ever.
yeah, that's super not objective, literally.
Like, Jesus.
Even for his own arguments, because in a remember he said that for
You're
his
lagging.
oh, thank God. And I said that Arbitorian uses to push his own opinions. When I remember one time he said that 40k is satire. And uses the first edition where it was kind of satire, and then just skipped on the latest one.
Yeah, he went first edition. See, guys, it is satire, and then jumped directly to the 9th and said, "See, by definition, this is also satire. This is not how it works."
Yeah, I got the satire argument many times under my videos. It's like, Gary, this is satire, sir. It doesn't matter, and it's not serious. And whatever. I'm like, do you know how many years like Warhammer 40k was not actually written as such? No? Alright.
Generally, when it comes to this, there is always an argument to be made pretty much on, okay, it is a satire. A satire of what? If they answer specifically, you can dismantle them specifically, because usually, if they are like Arbitorian, they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. But if they answer, it is a satire of many things, or even worse, a satire of everything, and you can just answer, okay, so it is a satire of nothing, because satirizing everything is satirizing nothing. And even then, the problem is that when you are into 40k, generally with satire, as I explained in my video on Why the Imperium Are the Good Guys, satire can exist only as long as the actions that you are satirizing are completely and utterly unjustified. The moment you justify them, which is a thing that has happened by this point in 40k for every single part that was considered satire, satire cannot exist anymore. Because at that point it becomes a measured response to events that have happened in the universe and the adaptability of a species trying to survive. You cannot just go, oh yeah, the Imperium hates everyone because they are made by fascists and they're satirizing fascists and are hating everyone because they are different. No, because the Dark Age of Technology, then the War with the Men of Iron, the betrayal of the aliens, the entirety of the Age of Strife, the Long Night, and then the return of the Emperor of Mankind. Pretty much what happened was everyone betrayed us, and now we don't trust them anymore, and they will get a bolt around to the forehead if we see them, because it is a measured response to the Long Night. But once again, satire dies when you make the behavior you're satirizing into justified behavior.
Yeah, indeed. I have no words. Okay, let's continue.
He then, as usual, claims that this retcon changes nothing because Warhammer 40k is always subjected to retcons of some kind.
So, having female Space Marines in the world would require changing the background. But so what? Warhammer fluff changes all the time. Even the fluff around Space Marines has had...
Did he freaking say fluff? Is that just fluff to him? What? Fluff?
Yeah.
This is the Arbitorian first edition 9th.
Yeah, this is the narrative of his argument. From first edition to 9th, all the ones in the middle don't count.
Yeah, it's fluff, guys. It's fluff. It's not major at all. No.
pretty big changes before.
Obviously leaving out the fact that most of those retcons were of very small stuff that had at the time very little lore, and not of rules and world building that have been there from the 1990s to the point that changing a little rule would invalidate hundreds of books and codexes. He's pretty much comparing the retcon of removing Ilian Nastase, the Half-Elder Chief Librarian of the Ultramarines, that was an Half-Elder Space Marine in an officer position of a chapter, in a very extremely xenophobic Imperium that doesn't tolerate mutants, so you can see why he was retconned, with demolishing the foundations of an entire faction overnight just because retcons happen. Very good argument, Ian. Hope you back it up with more than just your personal opinion. He then obviously announces that Games Workshop could just retcon and say they always existed, and uses an excuse that for 30 years that we have been told that Marines are only male, it was all articles and pieces of lore presented by unreliable narrators, leaving alone the fact that the principle of the unreliable narrator cannot apply.
I go into this a bit more in my recent video on canon in 40k, but Games Workshop have a few established ways of making changes that aren't just outright retcons, but would easily solve this. For one, they could just announce that female Space Marines have always been possible, like they do whenever a new model's released.
I just can't. Guys, I'm gonna leave you to comment on this for like 2 minutes. I'm gonna be back super quick, okay?
Yeah, no problem.
Just, you know, give him imperial justice here.
Generally, this entire series of videos that we watch from Arbitorian show to us that he has zero to little interest about 40k generally. Oh yeah, they could just say that they always existed. Okay. Where the fuck were they in all the books until now?
If I want to be Arbitorian, if they ever push, ever put female Space Marines, I just want to do a video like Arbitorian and just to say, okay, they put female Space Marines, but so what? The lore changes all the time. We should retcon them.
Robert Davis, the next video is on all the 4 wars for Armageddon. So yeah, the second war for Armageddon is coming. It is literally next video. But yeah,
Wow.
Wow, I will have to.
Will we
read a
talk
lot
about
of
the beast?
No.
Oh.
Oh my ass! That series has to burn. Like you can understand that the series is shit when the title of the first book in a series is a technicality. It is not even a title; it is literally a technicality. For those that don't know, the first book of the series of The Beast Arises is called I Am Slaughter. You will think, okay, yeah, it is maybe on like it does as a main character, a character that is extremely powerful martially. It is a character maybe that has rage problems or that is like a blood angel or such. Then you notice that the main character on the cover is actually an Imperial Fist, and you're like, how does this fit exactly? And then you find out that the entire title is a technicality because the Imperial Fist on the cover is actually named Slaughter. It is literally, I am Slaughter. Do you mean that
John
you are...
Slaughter.
Yeah, John Slaughter. It is... Okay, are you Slaughter because you kill a lot? No, that's actually my legal name.
I actually play tennis in my free time.
I'm not even that angry, I'm just Slaughter. And yeah, if your entire fucking series starts with a technicality of a title, you're already in for a bad time. But yeah, the rest of the series fucking sucks. It's barely canon as it is. I don't think it is canon even anymore at this point. Like, it doesn't make any fucking sense.
All right, I'm here.
Welcome
guys.
back.
Did you deliver imperial justice?
Yeah, quite a bit, and then we talked about some funny part of the lore.
Awesome. Okay, we can continue if you're ready.
Yes.
Yeah, let's go.
All right.
And that this ancient White Dwarf article is just an example of unreliable narrator. The ancient scribe that wrote it was just wrong. That's been done plenty of times before, but it doesn't explain why we haven't seen them yet.
Yes, I appear again as Professor Pio. The concept of the unreliable narrator applies to works of fiction or historical reality when the events are being recounted by people that took part in them after the events have already taken place. This means that the only way in which you can have an unreliable narrator is if 2 conditions are true at the same time. The narrator must be a character inside the story, and he must be recounting it after by his own testimony it has already happened in the past. If the narrator is not a character in the story, he has no reason to be unreliable, because it is an omniscient narrator with no reason to lie. If the character instead is part of the story, but the story is happening as you're reading it,
I like to explain it as the story is happening as you turn the page.
Then once again the unreliable narrator can't exist, because the story is happening in the present from the eyes of the character you're following, meaning that you're seeing what they are currently seeing as it is happening in the present, so they cannot misinterpret what is happening at that very moment in front of their eyes.
He obviously then uses the excuse of the Primaris and plot device Belisarius Cole, saying that Games Workshop could simply say that he created them.
The easiest way, though, is just to take advantage of 40k's new advancing timeline.
Okay, before we continue, I just want to point something out like real quick. So besides that system that you just showed, what with the lore and how you how you understand what's what, the other thing is to know which author wrote a particular book, because authors have a background in reading different things, so they can write their own literature. So basically, I'm doing a video about that because it's a bit complicated. But the point is, if you understand how some metaphysical, especially aspects, are written, you can actually understand them even if it's not explicitly said what they are in the lore. So, for example, Dan Abnett said that the chaos gods are not gods; they are gods when they relate to, how they relate to us from our perspective, but they are not written as gods. And I said that maybe a year before this interview with Dan Abnett was released, so I just made an analysis about the chaos gods and other things, and I said they're actually written as demons that are very high level. That is according to Theosophy or Anthroposophy. That's very complicated, and I'm gonna get into that. But the authors, that's the point, the authors have read these things, or at least part of them, so they can create their sci-fi or fantasy concepts when they write stuff like that. So it's very interesting when you know the author. You basically, you could explain what things in the lore are in this way as well. Okay.
Yeah, that is fine, but the problem comes when people try to use the unreliable narrator literally on everything, which is a thing that is happening more and more, and it is annoying me more and more. For the simple fact that not in every single fucking occasion you can have an unreliable narrator, and unreliable narrators need to be made at least a bit obvious to be considered unreliable. Like it happens in the Spears of the Emperor book, where the main story you are learning is actually being recounted by somebody that was there when the story happened. You are not reading it in the present, you are reading the past, being recounted by somebody that was there. So the narrator cannot be 100% reliable, because we don't know the full story. We don't know if he's getting stuff wrong, if he's misremembering stuff, or even when it comes to the Caiaphas Cain series. The Caiaphas Cain series is notoriously being written posthumously after the end of the service of Caiaphas Cain, and it is being written and revised and embellished in various parts by his own inquisitor girlfriend. I never remember her fucking name, but it is pretty much confirmed that she's the one revising all the work of his life, his autobiography, and she's embellishing it. So it is unreliable in that case because of it. But you cannot just point at a random book and say this is not canon because of a reliable narrator, and then it has zero influence from an unreliable narrator. Unreliable narrators need to be made at least a bit obvious to be even a reliable explanation for something.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are two separate things. What you're saying is absolutely valid within the lore, and what I'm saying is still absolutely valid, but there are two different things that we just have to have in mind sometimes, because some things you need to know the author. You do need to know the author to explain them some, and I just can't see them from a mile away. But if you haven't read the things that I have read and the authors, you will not be able to analyze those things. But when it comes to like pure direct information about the lore, you do have to have, of course, reliable narrators and from what prospect they are telling a story and all those things. Of course, that's 100%. So, okay.
Yeah.
We can continue if you're ready. Pio? Pio something?
What? No, I don't have nothing to say.
All right. Just want to give
Call
you
my
the floor.
lawyer. Call my lawyer.
All right, guys.
My lawyer advised me to not say anything.
All right. If you want to say something, just interrupt us. Yeah. Okay, and play.
Polaris Space Marines were introduced a few years ago, and in the background they're an improvement on the original Space Marine template that changes the biological procedures that go into their production. In world, as you'd expect, this is a controversial decision with the potential to be seen as heresy, but it's pushed through by Robert Guillemot.
Ignoring the fact that Belisarius Cole didn't create the gene seed, just upgraded it. He doesn't know how to adapt it on women, as the gene seed by itself is incompatible, as all the Primarchs were males. He then goes on the usual tirade about how they changed nothing.
It would take one line of text to announce that Cole also figured out gene seed that works on girls, a change that is completely believable in world, wouldn't change any of the previous fluff, and works really well with the Imperium's general ethos that all humans are a resource to be used.
About how Space Marines are asexual.
So yeah, female Space Marines would either change something or require an addition, but so what? So does everything. Finally, on this point, even if it changes the fluff, how much does this really change the setting? I've been using the terms male and female Space Marines throughout this, partly because those are the usual terms used, but we know that sex and gender are kind of irrelevant to Space Marines themselves, and certainly irrelevant to any of the stories they're in. I'm conflating a few things here.
I'm gonna explode a bit, just a bit here, because the way that he's wording things is very manipulative, and I just like my whole organism. It's not okay. Okay, guys, what do you think?
We are changing stuff, but so what?
It will take one line of text to say Emperor is actually a horse.
Yeah, I mean, by this point, like, how can you say, like, so what? Like, why do we have anything written down in a definitive way then? Like, nothing means, like, I just can't. I have too much coffee today. But yeah, nothing means anything by this point if you have to listen to this guy.
Yeah, it is why I called him a liar from the beginning of his section.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's very manipulative, even because every time he says something, he says that in theory you can do this, but he explains it like it's actual lore sometimes. like when he said that the Imperium are the bad guys, and just saying, yeah, you can do this, and just put random empires around the galaxy.
Yeah,
for
at
this
one
because
point
it's
he even
Valedictum.
misconstructed the various controversies regarding 40k, which is a thing we debunked completely. But one thing I want to observe is the way he misrepresented them, because he pretty much misrepresented both the controversies of the Imperium is built on hate, Warhammer is not, and Warhammer is for everyone, as Games Workshop denouncing the fans of the Imperium on men, when they were not even remotely connected to that, as I explained in the video. But he worded it in such a way to make people think that his entire view is the only one that is justified because Games Workshop acknowledges it. Like, this guy spent the entirety of these 3 videos just making shit up to be right. He didn't use anything official. He didn't use any of the knowledge of the lore needed. He just went, okay, how can I fuck with my audience today? And made videos about it.
Exactly, and what Pio actually brought up is very important because we see this way of speaking in other creators as well, because I'm also, in the gaming world, and I'm watching Endymion sometimes. Do you know who Endymion is?
No, not really.
Okay, well, he delivers the gaming news. But basically, him, like a year and a half ago, where all of that Warhammer 40K Amazon project was just very famous and the news were going. Arch also made a video then, which I didn't agree with at all, because they both actually adopted the same style of presenting information and some of the things as facts. Basically, they're saying that they were saying that the show is not gonna happen, and they were presenting just pure speculation, their own opinion as facts. The way that they word things, the manipulation of the language, that is what I really had a problem with, because people are super impressionable. They watch that and they're like coming to my comment section then and telling me these things in the same manner. They're just like copy paste. And like, Empress, this and that is totally absolute fact. The Henry Cavill show has failed. It's not gonna happen because because they watched Endymion Archer or somebody else. They decided to push that because it was very trendy. And by this same time, Mr. H Reviews, who's also like movie reviewer type of a guy, he came out, he said, I have inside information and I know that what Arch says is not true. Directly, he just said it. So this guy right here that we have now, it's very similar. He presents his own opinion as facts, and when I came to Warhammer lore, it was the same thing. I'm watching Bricky because I didn't know anything else. People just wanted me to react to Bricky and Major Kill, and some of the things that they said, especially Bricky by that time, is that that faction is this and that, and I'm like, really? It doesn't ring true to me, even though I haven't read much of the lore yet. Just doesn't ring true. The intonation and everything, you can just see right through it. So yeah, it's very important for people to notice that and not be like sheep that are just like, oh yes, this is totally the case. No, you gotta understand how information is delivered, and I understand that that is responsibility also of the creator. You shouldn't use manipulative language to word things as facts. Just make sure that what you're saying, if it's your speculation, leave it be your speculation. Make it clear, because people are at different level of intelligence, and you have to be genuine. And if you're not genuine, this is what happens. Okay, guys, I'm gonna leave you guys to talk.
No problem.
But yeah, the real problem with that is that when sometimes it can happen that maybe you deliver an information a bit in a very bad way sometimes. The problem with Arbitorian is that he's doing it like in every video we saw. So it's so unfortunately it's on purpose. There is not even the benefit of the doubt.
From what I understood, he even made a video fairly recently. I think it was before the election, before Boris Johnson was ousted and such. Pretty much comparing Robute Gilliman to Keir Starmer. And when I learned about that, I was like, I hope it was not in a good light, because Keir Starmer is unironically pretty much taking away freedom of speech from England. And like, from what I understood, he was trying in every way possible to compare them as being great administrators and great leaders for their own people. And I'm like, you don't understand what the fuck you're talking with. Comparing Gilliman to Keir Starmer might be one of the biggest fucking insults somebody can think about. If anything, Keir Starmer is more comparable to Lorgar than Gilliman.
That's a very big insult.
He deserves it. The asshole deserves
I know.
it. I'm not in England. You cannot arrest me.
Sorry, I'm muted. Thank God for that. I have a bit of a puppy situation, but it's handled. Okay, guys. So yeah, we can continue, because we can talk endlessly about these things. So continue.
Yeah, I want to.
But they're portrayed as effectively asexual, aromantic, have had most human.
Yeah, one very short thing. I want to remind you that Major Kill called this guy uncontroversial.
Uncontroversial. What?
And
Crazy.
so,
Yeah,
yeah,
he defended the Arbitorian by going, oh yeah, he attacked even extremely uncontroversial YouTubers like Arbitorian. This guy literally made an entire video comparing the Imperium to the Nazis. No, sorry, in his opinion to the fascists, but then showed only pictures of Nazis, as you will see in a minute.
Jesus. Okay, guys. I'm gonna let the video play until the puppies, of course, I mean, we have to do it anyway, but the puppies, like, right now are crazy. So putting the video.
Emotions removed and seem to be incapable of experiencing love except for filial, that between family.
Ignoring the fact that he works against his own argument, as a change that changes nothing has no reason to happen. And even then, Marines, as confirmed in the first book of the Horus Heresy, might be asexual, but they still have male organs. A remembrancer in the book Horus Rising sees the organ of Garviel Loken while he's showering, and she even mentions that he's wasted as a space marine with that kind of equipment.
So in the context of a typical Black Library novel, apart from
just a little observation in this case, which is a thing many people made me notice. I actually said the correct lore, but I said the wrong source for it, because I used as a source Horus Rising, in which there are various scenes that can be misconstructed as what I said. But the scene specifically that I'm referring to is actually not in Horus Rising, but is in The Emperor's Gift, which is a Grey Knight's book. That's the only mistake in the entire video. I've read so much fucking stuff that I get confused on the sources sometimes, but the lore is correct.
All right. So that's sorry. I muted for you guys. Just to say, so guys, if I mute myself for you, that means that everything is muted. If I mute myself for the stream, you'll probably hear the puppies. But if you don't hear anything, then I mute myself for you.
Yeah, no problem.
It's a complicated setup. Okay.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. I'm gonna play it. Okay.
a few pronouns, what would allowing female Space Marines actually change? Arguably nothing.
He repeated like 2 times that it changes nothing. How does he fail to see that if it changes nothing, then it has no reason to happen?
He then commits one of the gravest sins of the 40k setting, which is just ignoring the nuances of all the orders of the Adepta Sororitas and just calling them the female army of 40k like a true fucking lore master would.
If we're talking about the aesthetic of women in power armor being done, well, Space Marines and Sisters of Battle have considerably different aesthetics and cultural influences, and everyone seems to be fine with having a range of different aesthetics for men in power armor. Why is women in power armor just limited to this? But mostly, I think when people say this, they're arguing that the model range already includes one faction with female models, so why do you need another? Viking army, check. Roman army, check. Female army, check. TV tropes would call this the Smurfette principle, and the issue with it is that it assumes being female is the sole trait a character needs.
Now listen, we can't go through the entire video, because we made a Lord Destroyers episode on the videos we're talking about here, and we had to stop every 15 seconds to debunk something this guy said. The rest of the video is literally a tirade on how the Space Marines could be seen as a satire of toxic masculinity, patriarchy, and all the bullshit people like him believe that 40k represents.
That Space Marines can be seen as a satirical comment on, well, a number of things, including religious patriarchy, masculinity, and gender. Warhammer 40k was written as a satire of, well, many things, and one of those things was organized religion, particularly Christianity, because...
Oh my god, how did he went here?
Many of his own arguments in this video are like, let's jump from one thing to the next. He pretty much is mentioning why like they shouldn't be made and such, but for every single one of his videos, literally, okay, what if this is this, and doesn't provide any more context than that.
Great. Well, we can justify anything with anything then. Just doesn't matter.
It is what he did. He completely ignored anything after first edition to jump directly in the 9th. So it is what he's doing.
Yeah. Okay, guys, I'm gonna leave you to comment just for 30 seconds. And I'm gonna be right back. Okay? So, ballistic. Go ballistic on this guy.
Like, generally, when it comes to this kind of stuff, I think that the main thing you really need to do when you're dealing with this kind of problematic arguments, and when you're trying, in this case, like Arbitorian, to spew bullshit in this way, you should, at the very least, like, provide the context and let people make up their own mind. Just provide the people the material to have their own conclusion. Don't provide them just a fucking conclusion, because at that point... You get people like Arbitorian that do it maliciously, and being that people don't know any better, they just believe in blindly and then start trusting wrong stuff. So
the point is that Arbitorian sometimes I think that he's trying to become a writer for Games Workshop. Because in every video he says, this is my suggestion, and just goes rambling about stuff that he will do. The point is that you have no authority to do so.
don't Sisters of Battle have feminine armor to exploit a load that was about Inquisition having an army? No, the Sisters of Battle, as he will later comment, exist because of a loophole in the decree passive. The decree passive generally is pretty much a law created after the Age of Apostasy, where the Ecclesiarchy was completely banished from having any kind of men under arms. But because the wording is specifically men under arms, and the Sisters of Battle are not men, it is their official army. But yeah, their armor is made that way to show that they are all women. But that is not the point here. The point is... he's advocating for changing the lore, and then he will use as an example as to why the Sisters of Battle are all women, the lore. So, what should I trust? Should we change it because we feel like it, or should we follow it because it's canon? You cannot have both. And even then, no, the Sisters of Battle and the Sisters of Silence are not genetically engineered in any way. They are not enhanced. They have nothing. They are normal human women in power armor and with bolters. But yeah. And
Which
yeah,
makes them a lot.
all Space Marines start all as humans. None of them was anything other than a human. Well, maybe if we want to count, no, not even him in that case. Like the special Space Marine of Cole. What the fuck was he called? It is too early. I don't remember names. Alpha Primus, but no, they all start as humans. They are genetically enhanced humans. Yeah, the people that say, oh no, boob plate is not historically accurate. Maybe specifically boob plate isn't, but a woman using armor that has more space in the chest because they have breast is completely fucking accurate.
Here, guys. Okay.
Good, we can go on.
Yeah, I'm going because we're not even halfway.
That was the dominant one in the UK the writers grew up in, and at the time still had over-influence on popular culture. Christianity is famously a patriarchal religion and full of father-son dynamics, and the origin stories of the Space Marines inherited a lot of that. The Horus Heresy owes a lot to Paradise Lost, and themes like the betrayal of the father are prominent in 40k. Space Marines over the years have been more and more likened to monastic orders. Space Marines being men could be seen as part of the wider religious satire of the setting, and you could go even further than this when you think about what Space Marines actually are. Children, taken before puberty and given an alternative to growing up that turns them into fighting machines. Big, strong superheroes who never get old and never get sick and hang out with their friends all day fighting bad guys. They're a silly 8-year-old boy's idea of what being a man is, all duty and honor and fighting and no emotions except anger and no girls. That's just toxic masculinity. Surprising how this one never gets used by the angry gamers, right?
How is this toxic masculinity again?
Because Arbitorian is a leftist, and anything that makes a man is actually poison to him. That's the only explanation I can add. Because yeah.
Well, I see it as a very cool manly thing. So it's not toxic. It's like, I mean, the guys literally dedicate their whole existence to fight for the Imperium. So what?
Yeah,
but he described literally just being a soldier in some way. So every soldier, even in real life, it's just a toxic masculinity to him. I don't know.
Wow, that's very unmanly thing to say.
I don't know. What the fuck?
Really? Okay.
Obviously without proof. Just look at Captain Titus and Lieutenant Mira in the first Space Marine game. The man gave himself up to the Inquisition just so Mira wouldn't be captured and tortured. Pure toxic masculinity.
You will submit to my authority, Captain, or the Inquisition must conclude that you have corrupted every Ultramarine under your command, not to mention those who stand at your side.
Ignore his threats. Come on.
The Inquisition will destroy you, Mira, and the Ultramarines will be forever dishonored. Leave my brothers and the Lieutenant alone. I will come with you.
He then misinterprets comments made by Alan Merritt regarding the original first edition minis that everyone says were female Space Marines. They were not, as confirmed by Alan Merritt himself in our video about it. Go and watch it. The first comment he misinterprets reads, "These were sculpted by the designer as female Space Marines, but it wasn't an official brief, and they weren't released as that."
Alan Merritt was for many years Games Workshop's head of IP, but back when those were released he was the design manager of the studio, and in 2018 he jumped on a thread where he explained a bit of the original decision-making process. These were sculpted by the designer as female Space Marines, but it wasn't an official brief as such, and they weren't released as that. The reason there aren't female Space Marines has nothing to do with lore or background or character of Marines. It's to do with the simple logistics of making and selling miniatures. Early Citadel ranges had female versions of most character types. In fact, when we produced the C range, the intention was that upwards of 25% of the models would be female. But retailers kept complaining to us that customers weren't buying the female models, and could we not include any in the restocks? So we took the female models out of circulation. So when we got to the new Rogue Trader ranges and exciting new Space Marine model ranges, it was difficult to see how we could logistically add an occasional female model to the mix. We knew that if every Marine blister had a female model as one of the three, then folk would complain, so we didn't make any female ones. All the background fluff about why there are only male Marines is there to justify a commercial logistics issue. So the reason for Space Marines being male is basically a marketing decision based on what nerds in 1987 wanted to buy. They listened to their customer base at the time, which means that if nerds in 2021 want female Space Marines, surely the good business decision is to change it.
But the comment continues with, the process of making and releasing models back in the day was quite varied. Designers tried stuff, and we asked them to make all manner of weird and wonderful things, pretty much confirming that the designers were throwing shit at the wall at random and seeing what stuck. Nobody told them to make those models. They made them and they were discarded later. And then an entire comment about how the non-existence of female Space Marines was a logistical issue. Yes, but it was when their lore was still up in the air. And because people didn't like the objectively ugly old female models of Games Workshop, they stopped producing them and justified it as an in-lore reason. Meaning that what was at first a logistical issue then became confirmed lore. And now it cannot be changed without massive problems. He then has the goal to mention a lore reason as to why the Adeptus Sororitas are all female.
But wait, they cry, Sisters of Battle have shapely armor and boob plate. Well, yeah, but there are some reasons for that. First, Sisters of Battle really are just really physically fit women, without the crazy growth hormones or extra organs. But also, Sororitas armor has obviously female coding because it's really important in world that people realize they're women. The Adeptus Sororitas exist because of the decree passive that stops the Minotaurum from having men underarms. They're essentially a loophole. So their gender is designed to be obvious through their armor.
After for the entire video he has advocated that we should retcon the lore as to why Marines are only male for no reason at all, by going openly against canon. And he then, at the end, explains how he will change the lore to include females. He wouldn't change the sprue, he wouldn't change the models, he will leave everything as is. We'll point at a random armored Space Marine with an helmet on and say that's female. Pretty much showing that he wants to change the lore not only for no reason, but with no practical use either.
So shorter? Nope. Pin-up proportions? Nope. Long hair and makeup? Probably not. Just a female head swap? I'm not really a good enough sculptor to manage that. So where does that leave us? Well, for now, here. Here's what I think a female Space Marine in full armor would look like. Exactly the same. This is what I'm going to be using as the basis for my 28 mag entry, a standard intercessor. And this is why Games Workshop should make the change. It's the easiest way of giving the fans what they want because they don't really need to make any new models. They just need to say it's possible.
Who wants that?
Nobody. From what I've seen, nobody.
Exactly.
So, wait. His entire argument is that GW should change the lore because why not?
The perfect argument coming from a 40k lore master. If only somebody made a 1 hour long video debunking every single way to introduce them into the lore in extreme detail. But if it was only this video, then I could let it slide. But we watched another two, and things only got worse as we did so. Secondly, we watched the video Canon and Retcons in Warhammer 40k. Everything is canon. Now, I don't want to waste too much time on Arbitorian, so I will briefly tell you what this video is about. This video covers how Arbitorian doesn't understand the concept of world building, the concept of timeline, the concept of retcon, the concept of addition versus substitution, and the concept that Games Workshop coined the phrase everything is canon but not everything is true because they had writers that sucked and couldn't say so openly. Like CS Goto for an example. He even says in the video that if something is retconned and you don't like the change, you can just go back and be happy that what got retconned still probably exists somewhere around the galaxy.
But this way of working allows loads more flexibility in a game that isn't really intended to have a linear timeline. It's designed to be flexible. And generally, old fluff is always kept around in some form. If you like something about the setting and Games Workshop do something new with it, then the likelihood is the version you like still exists somewhere.
failing to understand that a retcon is a retroactive timeline change, meaning that stuff hasn't suddenly changed and there is a new version at the same time as the old one, but that the new version is the only one that always existed. Want to know more? Either watch the episode of Lord Destroyers where we covered this video, or first watch this video and then watch our video The Importance of Lore, to learn how lore and world building truly works, because Arbitorian seriously doesn't know how they work. And the third video, unfortunately, we watched in private as we were writing this video. It is called How Do You Solve a Problem Like the Imperium? Taking 40k lore back from the far right.
Ah, he's one of those that sees 40k through the lenses of political ideology.
Unfortunately, it seems a trait common with people that don't understand 40k. Yes. In this video, obviously, Arbitorian claims that the Imperium in 40k should be seen as satire.
So the Imperium of Man is terrible. It's an authoritarian, oppressive, intolerant, incredibly conservative, xenophobic state that allows no other option to exist in the galaxy. And also, it's fascist, right? Well, I could do a whole video on that subject, and we could argue over the exact definition of fascism and if the Imperium fits that description, but it's actually irrelevant, because like the First Order in Star Wars, the Imperium is coded fascist.
Despite even the beginner's guide to 40k that released recently claimed that it moved away from satire, and it is now a tale of tragedy of humanity struggling against the dying light. He then spends the entire video dunking on the methods of the Imperium, methods adopted out of desperation for the survival of humanity, all the while accusing them of being fascist, and then showing off only pictures of Nazis.
But you're meant to look at this and be reminded of this. You're meant to look at uniforms like this and be reminded of this. They're code words for this is bad, and the Imperium of Man works in a similar way. We're meant to see the xenophobia, the incredible conservatism and tradition, the obsession with purity and pure genetics, the worship of militarism and creating superhumans as, well, this.
Obviously, we will ignore the fact that the Imperium of Men is technically an authoritarian feudal theocracy, as every planet is left to govern in the manner they see fit, as long as they pay the tithes and enforce even loosely the religion of the Emperor to stave off chaos. But everything people don't like in this day and age is fascist, at least for people that understand zero of politics, like Arbitorian and many other 40k YouTubers.
Okay, just quick note. I mean, context is everything. So in the context of Warhammer 40k, it's not that they're worshipping militarism in that kind of a sense that he wants to make it out to be. It's just that it's absolute necessity that they have to have a military systems and everything else to protect humanity. It's not, oh no, we're just gonna worship military and what?
Yeah, but I remember there was this guy, Adam something, that basically said for the Imperium, look how they dress, they are clearly fascists. And he said almost the same thing, Arbitorian here.
Yeah,
And
I remember
don't,
that guy. Cover him, yeah.
I can't just look at this guy, how well he dresses. Yeah, he's clearly fascist. He's not an argument.
Yeah, being just, oh yeah, this reminds me of this. Okay, good for you. Doesn't mean that there is a connection. And there were even some people in the comments that were actually under the video agreeing with Arbitorian and trying to make arguments about it. And I was like, so you want to tell me that all of the Imperium is coded fascist and Nazis? Okay, I don't remember Nazis having power armor. I don't remember Nazis having the commissars. Those were actually from the Soviet army, and they are inspired from the commissars of the Soviet army. Okay, I also don't remember like the Imperium being fighting, like in this case the Nazis being fighting an existential threat and demons. Like, generally, there is no way in hell where you can spin it as bad ideology of today, because even in concept, it is so far removed from anything we have had to deal with that there is no political ideology you can compare it to that will ever make sense.
Exactly. And I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous that people see 40k in such a face value. This is the problem that we had for many years. People just see 40k and then all of those conclusions that we see in different videos, like with Bricky's videos, that that faction or this or that or whatever, the Imperium, everybody are the bad guys. I mean, by this point, I I should probably make a video about all the misconceptions throughout the years for Warhammer 40K. That's gonna be a pretty good video idea. But yeah, that's why it's important for those who deliver the lore to get things as correct as possible, because if you do that, if you decide to make lore videos like you guys, you have to present the universe in correct manner. Otherwise, you're not doing the universe justice. So you also have a responsibility in that kind of a way. And it's very important because then you see we have years upon years of people that are now with this opinion that's based on nothing. I mean, it's based on wrong information, and this information gets repeated to the end of time, and then people don't even know what 40K is. It just becomes this very convoluted mess.
Yep.
He spends the entire video making claims without showing even an hint of proof. He even complains that we only see Space Marines in a good light from the side of the Imperium of Men and humanity.
As the setting grew more mainstream, the aspect of Space Marines as noble warrior monks became more and more prominent, resulting in a world where these abused, intolerant, mass-murdering child soldiers are only ever portrayed from the Imperium's point of view, as genuine heroes. This is like Star Wars but with no rebels, where the stormtroopers are our lead characters doing the good work of the First Order.
Which raises the question, why the fuck would we care about the opinion of a military force from the side of the people trying actively to exterminate us? I doubt their opinion will be good when they get exterminated in return for trying. Don't you think, Arbitorian? He then complains that Games Workshop is portraying the Imperium of Men as unnecessary evil.
Second, as the setting expanded, it started to justify the Imperium. As concepts like the Warp or the Horus Heresy were fleshed out, the Imperium became less of an oppressive state and more of a necessary oppressive state. In the world of 40k right now, the justification for the Imperium's actions is that without them, humanity would be doomed. The result is a body of work which spends vastly more time portraying the Imperium as a necessary evil, and the Space Marines and Commissars within it as noble heroes, than it does pointing out that they're bad. It may be the unintended development of 30 years of game design, but we've ended up with a setting that states that sometimes the horrible fascist option might be the only way.
Which it is by definition seeing the lore written in the last 2 decades. Just watch my video The Imperium are the good guys of 40k to know why in extreme detail, with cited sources. But then he lies about the claims of Warhammer is for everyone, and the Imperium is driven by hate, Warhammer is not.
Anyway, the upshot is 40k can have a bit of an unsavoury reputation in the wider gaming world for attracting fascists. And while we all know it's a tiny minority, it's a big enough problem that Games Workshop have had to make multiple statements condemning being a fan of the Imperium and confirming that, despite almost everything they release saying the opposite, the Imperium is still totally meant to be satire. If you have to explain that, then it isn't working.
Completely not providing the context that the first one was released during the 2020's George Floyd riots in the US. And obviously everyone got angry about it because Games Workshop is British and had no business as a toy company to comment about the riots and their underlying political issues. Just watch the final part of my female Space Marine video to know why. And the second instead was for a Spanish wargamer that entered a tournament in his country, dressed with clothes sporting political symbols and signing himself Austrian Painter. The guy did it literally for trolling, but he won the tournament because everyone else in it was so weak and offended by his attire that they forfeited en masse and made him win. Thing that pushed Games Workshop to release this article. It is not a problem of the fans in 40k, it is a problem of the trolling of a single person and the weakness of other 40k players. He then makes an argument that Games Workshop should start portraying the Imperium of Men as an empire facing impossible odds and having to keep their own morality in a grey area out of pure survival, and start portraying it again as the bad guys by using the Cicatrix Maledictum as a plot device to create smaller human empires that are not aligned with the Imperium, but fare better.
But I think there is a way you can keep the Imperium basically the same, but remove it as a necessary evil, and since 40k now has a progressing storyline, it's not even that difficult to do. Here's my suggestion. Warhammer 40k 10th edition is released, and just like the last 2 editions, the timeline has moved forwards. The Cicatrix Maledictum has spread across the galaxy, vomiting forth legions of chaos and xenos and cutting off vast sections of the Imperium. Guilliman's Indomitus crusade has rallied the defenders, doing a good job of shoring up the new, reduced frontiers of the Imperium, but the tendrils of the cicatrix continue to spread, isolating more and more of the galaxy from Imperial control. The core of the Imperium is intact, shored up by its embattled military, but by now whole sectors have been cut off for hundreds of years and had to survive as best they can. Many of these areas continue to think of themselves or declare themselves as Imperial, at least on the face of things, lest the warp storms calm and the Hammer of the Emperor return. But how much lip service they actually pay to Terra and its institutions varies. The 10th edition setting opens with this, a divided galaxy with a few big human factions and the implication that there are loads of smaller ones. The biggest of these, by far, is still the Imperium, struggling to hold what it can together. As Lord Commander of the Imperium, Guilliman's tendency is for unity at any cost, but even he realizes that, for now, with chaos at the gate, alliance might have to replace conquest. This opens the way for all sorts of new stories. What about an area that was taken over by the Helots of a Destroyed Astartes chapter? An industrial zone completely run by mercantile contracts? Human empires allied to the Tau or in league with other Xenos? Areas cut off from the Mechanicum, but who seem to be doing fine developing their own technologies? Petty kingdoms, freedom fighters, new republics, some of them fall without the support of the Imperium, just as the Imperium always said, but loads of them do just fine. Suddenly the great lie of the Imperium is exposed. Maybe it isn't the only way.
This completely betrays a lack of understanding of the Imperium in general. As I explored in the video The Imperium are the good guys of 40k, the Imperium of Men was the only choice, and a justified response to many failed attempts to live all well together. With aliens, with mutants, with psychers, and then with the warp itself. He even has the courage of using the Interrex as an example of an empire that existed during the Great Crusade that was faring pretty decently. Until the Imperium found them and forcibly annexed them, even if they mostly wiped them out. A little reminder, this was the same fucking period of the Rangdan genocides and the Ullanor crusade against the biggest orc empire to ever exist in the galaxy. So even if we don't count chaos, something these people were 100% ignorant about, and that would have wiped them out, the orcs or the Rangdans would have reached them at some point. And if even the Imperium with its hundreds of thousands of space marines deployed, because there were over 300,000 deployed in the Rangdan genocides, together with 3 Primarchs, almost lost, what the fuck would these people even hope to do? Following the siege of Xana, the war went on for more than 2 decades. Millions upon millions of deaths were suffered by the Imperium. 19 inhabited systems lay to waste, and a ban on further expedition past the exclusive post of Endris and Morox was put in place. During the war, contingents of 9 separate legions would become embroiled in the fighting, more than 300,000 space marines being deployed at the height of the conflict, with 3 Primarchs that led their own legions in battle against the Rangda, with the main honor to being the foremost commander of the Second Rangdan War given to Lionel Johnson of the Dark Angels.
Seemed like a desperate struggle for survival.
Even more than you might think, Pio. When the last expeditionary fleet had reached the eastern fringes of the galaxy, in doing so they had attracted the attention of the Rangdan Seravors, a species of macabre power and technological might. It seemed that the Imperium was going to meet its end here. Entire expeditionary fleets went to their deaths without a single survivor. Worlds were laid to waste, dozens of Titan legions were obliterated by the end of the war, and it was even said that entire legions of space marines met their end there. Then the conflict was swept under the rug. All records of it sealed with the last copies given to the Dark Angels for safekeeping. The veterans that have fought and survived the war either mind-wiped or eliminated altogether. The planets left barren by the Rangdan War and Taint were simply abandoned, and then the Remembrancers brought in to make up an half-fact, half-fiction tale of the Xenocides to feed the Imperium. Because the Emperor thought that the only way for the Imperium to rebuild after the second Xenocide was for the Rangda to vanish from all existence and history, and for humanity to never learn about how near their extinction they came from the war they had just fought. Forced alliance is the only way in the galaxy of 40k, because we either stand united or get annihilated. It is why seceding and betraying the Imperium is not allowed. Reason 1, power of the Imperium. Reason 2, humans can survive only when working together, so you either work with them or they will replace you with somebody that will. And all of this All of the lies, the lack of context, the complete and utter ignorance on how the Imperium works and why, because once you learn the history of humanity as we did for the video on why the Imperium are the good guys, you see that they are pretty much justified in almost everything they did, because they tried an open-minded approach and were almost exterminated every time. He wants changes just because he can't fathom that the only way humanity can survive in 40k is by being as brutal as the enemies trying to kill them.
You have pirates, mercenaries, new states, and the evil old Imperium lurking in the background. You want the Imperium like it's always been? Great, you can still have them. This idea involves no retcons. But now there's other options too. Factions who are openly hostile or obviously doing better than the Imperium, but who don't get immediately portrayed as heretics and wiped out in the next paragraph. And because of that, it's impossible for anyone to say the Imperium is a necessary evil. The Imperium think that, but it was never necessary, and the tragic fact that it existed for 10,000 years in spite of that keeps the setting just as grimdark as ever.
There were even people under our video that commented that we have no proof that the Dark Age of technology humans were a lot more tolerant than the Imperium. In fact, we do have proof they were. The sheer existence of all the alien races of 40k is proof that they were a lot more tolerant. The Dark Age of technology had AIs controlling armies, and weapons so advanced they could have easily wiped out almost all aliens of the galaxy. The only ones they would have had a problem at the time destroying were the Eldars, because there were trillions of them, and they still had much of their very advanced technology to use, together with their psychic powers. And we all know how that ended. If you don't know the context as to why the Imperium became what it is, you really shouldn't fucking talk about it.
So your verdict on Arbitorian is?
His channel is a complete and utter mess. He is an ideology-driven individual that doesn't bring proof, lies about the lore all the time, and purposefully leaves out the context of everything that will make the Imperium seem justified in their actions and morally grey, just because it doesn't espouse his own ideology. And because he can't accept that the only real sin if you are fighting for the survival of your own species is losing. This guy a lore expert. What a joke. Now
Okay, it's a great time to pause it. Oh boy.
Yeah, the part on Arbitorian was the longest in the entire video.
Yeah, it's hard work.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like one of the worst offenders of 40k. I mean, he said so many things that are wrong, and basically, first saying things that represent the lore in a twisted way and try to excuse everything that's not supposed to be there, and then offers even more ideas based on absolutely no real truths about the Imperium. So it becomes a mishmash of nothingness.
Yep.
Okay, we have an amazing super chat. Pio, just hold that thought, please. Hold that thought because I already started.
Yeah.
From Tsunami, who is my spirit guy at Elden Ring. He says, "Who is this gay lefty Brit trying to ship his nonsense into 40k, and why do I love these two Italians destroying him?" Well, I would say you have taste.
It is all about the Italian accent. It makes everything a lot funnier. Robert Davis, yeah, the Mr. Bones has been on Lord Destroyers and also General Bradley VA 101. Mr. Bones was boring as fuck, and to be honest, had very shitty opinions on a lot of stuff, to the point that we watched, I think, one single video from him, and we were like, yeah, if they are all like this, we are not watching more, because it was an half an hour video for something that could have been said in 10 minutes. Other than that, we have General Bradley. General Bradley is not even trying to adhere to canon. We watched two videos from him. Both were half an hour long, if not a bit more, and both were bullshit. His video on the Dark Angels, they are all pariahs, the god of the pariahs, the dimension of the pariahs.
The null dimension.
The complete and utter bullshit. And then we watched this video on the Terminus Decree, which was just more complete and utter bullshit. The guy might be interesting, but he's not speaking about 40k lore. He's making stuff up all the time. So, yeah, but yeah, you find all the episodes of Lord Destroyers on Lord Destroyers. There is 2 on General Bradley and 1 of Mr. Bones. So,
Okay, that's great. I mean, there's not amount of there's no enough amount of things we can say about Arbiter Ian and people like him, but I think that will suffice for now. We are not even to the halfway there, so I'm just gonna continue. And
Yeah.
Tsunami, once again, thank you. And continue.
Now we move to Eons of Battle. And before you leave a comment telling me that he's a channel that mainly makes tutorials on mini painting, we were sent several of his videos to watch for Lord Destroyers, where he made comments and explained lore in between painting tips. So, if you don't want to attract the eye of the Italians, don't explain lore you don't know. And especially, don't fucking lie so much about it.
What are we? Lord Boogeyman now? If you say wrong lore 3 times in the mirror, Pontius appears to hit you with a frying pan.
The first video of Eons of Battle we watched was his video building and discussing female space marines. Problem? And we start directly from the intro with the bullshit.
Female Space Marines, let's do it. I want to talk about the controversy, the phenomenon, the absolute meme that girl Space Marines are. I want to build some female Space Marines for myself, and I want to talk about my solution if Games Workshop ever wants to add lady Space Marines into the lore. It's a lot easier than you think.
And then we move to one of the funniest moments we ever had on the Lord Destroyer series. First of all, Eons of Battle claims that the creation process of Space Marines is literal magic.
So what are the arguments against female Space Marines? Because there's a few I keep hearing. I would say the big one is it's impossible for women to receive the gene seed and be turned into Space Marines. So, putting aside the fact that the Space Marine creation process is pure magic, I have read every single Space Marine Codex ever published, and nowhere does it actually say it's impossible to give the gene seed to women, only that it's only been given to men.
Which pushes me to ask, Eons, what did you smoke that day? Were you high? The fact that it is sci-fi made up science doesn't make it magic. It makes it still sci-fi fucking science. Once again, if you want to learn how the creation process of a Space Marine work, we made a video about it, with sources mentioned, and not fucking once we used the word magic in it. What he said is misleading for what he says right after.
I have read every single Space Marine Codex ever published, and nowhere does it actually say it's impossible to give the gene seed to women, only that it's only been given to men.
Oh yeah, I actually trust that he has read all the codexes, and is saying the full truth about it, especially when he claims that nowhere it is said that gene seed can't be given to women. He just missed. The Horus Heresy Book 1 Betrayal, page 28.
The process of initiation. A Space Marine of the Legion is Astartes is transformed from mere human frailty by a threefold process of genetic manipulation, surgical augmentation, and psycho-conditioning that in ideal circumstances takes place over a number of years over the course of the individual's adolescence. That the process is conducted while the subject body is undergoing maturation represents the highest chance of survivability and the lowest chance of tissue rejection, and although at least partial enhancement with adult subjects is possible, it is extremely dangerous and often unpredictable in results. The process by which Space Marines are created relies inherently on the hormonal and biological makeup of the human male, meaning that only males can be subjected to the transformation. In practice, only a small percentage of potential candidates will for one reason or another be regarded as suitable, either because of genetic, environmental, or psychological factors. The resultant Space Marine is in many ways no longer functionally human, but in others massively advantaged in terms of physical strength, durability and reflexes over even the most physically adept unaugmented human warrior. Their bodies are also phenomenally efficient biological engines, resistant to disease, contamination, radiation and poison.
Description that is mirrored on the Codex of the Horus Heresy Age of Darkness 2nd edition rulebook at page 31, almost word for word, a codex that came out a year before this video was released.
The process of initiation. A Space Marine is transformed from mere human frailty by a threefold process of genetic manipulation, surgical augmentation and psycho-conditioning that ideally takes place over several years during the individual's adolescence. That the process is conducted while the body is undergoing maturation presents the highest chance of survivability and the lowest chance of tissue rejection. And although partial enhancements of adult subjects is possible, it is extremely dangerous. The process by which Space Marines are created relies inherently on the hormonal and biological makeup of the human male, meaning that only males can be subjected to the transformation. In practice, only a small percentage of potential candidates will for one reason or another be regarded as suitable because of genetic, environmental or psychological factors, and even amongst these, many do not survive the process.
Unfortunately, this description wasn't carried to the latest Horus Heresy 3.0 rulebook, and trust me when I say it, everyone was angry about it. But funnily enough, even in the book of the tabletop RPG Deathwatch, specifically the core rulebook, at page 28 we once again get confirmation that Space Marines can only be male.
gender, and appearance. Due to the special nature of the zygotes that make up a Space Marine's gene seed, all Space Marines are male.
I have read every single Space Marine Codex ever published, and nowhere does it actually say it's impossible to give the gene seed to women, only that it's only been given to men.
So that was a fucking lie.
And we will obviously ignore the numerous mentions to Space Marines being men, having always male pronouns, being always called sons literally fucking everywhere, even the Emperor saying,
"They shall be my finest warriors, these men who give themselves to me. Like clay I shall mold them, and in the furnace of war forge them."
Because obviously all those references are not important. So yes, another bullshit claim. Let's continue, Ians. He then mentions the quote from Malkador about making some of the Primarchs female, quote that is also discussed in our female Space Marines video.
And sure, you could say that because it's only been given to men, it's impossible to put it in women, but allow me to quote the lore. A quote from my man, Malkador the Sigillite.
Who am I? I'm the greatest. Who am I? I'm getting paid. Who am I?
Malkador smiled. You brothers, such a nest of rivalries. I warned him, the Emperor, to make you sisters, that it would make things more civilized. He thought I was joking. I wasn't. If the Emperor's BFF and the smartest human to ever exist in all of 40K says it would have been possible to create female Primarchs, then certainly it is possible to create female Space Marines.
But first to see that the Emperor thought the idea was so stupid that he thought a smart person like Malkador was just joking, and pretty much laughed in his face. Because he knew the risks of giving women to the Space Marines. The Demonculaba is a thing, Eons. You should read the books. He then tries to justify the introduction into the lore of female Space Marines, saying that first thing, they don't break the lore. Which, fucking news, they do! They ruin 35 plus years of established lore. But then try to justify it by saying that Space Marines are people with emotions? I am not joking. Watch.
So moving on to argument number 2, some might claim that sure, it's not necessarily impossible for female Space Marines to exist, but it would destroy 35 years of established lore. Well, to that I would say, no it doesn't. Sure, Space Marines are a brotherhood, but not really. In the codexes, Space Marines are described as psycho-indoctrinated super soldiers who know nothing but warfare. But when you crack open any 40K novel, you find out Space Marines are just people with their own thoughts, feelings, and opinions on things. The Horus Heresy series is a 50-novel epic about Space Marines having a lot more humanity and free will than the Emperor planned for. Humanity, not man-nanity.
That's not an argument.
Removing that what he just said is pure bullshit, again, watch our videos to learn why in detail, but this entire argument is...
I'm sorry. I just can't. I have to stop it.
Yeah, the part about man-nanity still haunts my nightmares.
So we don't
The
understand
creed.
language now, is that it? I mean, there's a lot of things that are wrong about this. So from my perspective, as somebody that happens to be a female, this is so stupid. Because in general, it is stupid. It doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. This doesn't make any sense. If Warhammer 40K initially was written with women being Space Marines and Custodies or whatever, because if they were, that means that it would make sense for the way that it was written, because it will be built from the ground up. That's totally different. Just like we have the Sisters of Silence and Battle, they belong there. They're there. They're amazing and whatever. But they're not. Space Marines are not written to be women, and that is okay. I don't need to relate to them. Because a lot of the arguments these days are about relatability, and that's stupid. Because when you have larger-than-life characters, you can always totally understand them if you just have a brain. You don't need to be that to understand whatever it is on the screen. That's always been extremely stupid and immature ways of thinking. For example, I totally understand Superman, but I don't need to be a Kryptonian and a man to understand Superman. If you're a human being and you have a brain, you can understand everyone. So I don't need to have like female factions to be super fan of whatever faction. My favorite faction is the Custodies, and they're men. For me, they're only men. And I don't need women to be integrated there because
Don't worry, for the lore that they wrote, they cannot be women. You will see in a bit. I make an entire diagram explaining why.
I mean, I know. I also covered this. But the point is from, if I'm talking to a lefty or something, that's how I'm trying to explain this. From a female perspective, and from somebody that loves all kind of geeky things, and I grew up with superheroes and action stuff and Warhammer more recently, but still, I love it for exactly what it is, and that's the point. And you do not need to see yourself in anything. If you want to see yourself presented on the screen, then you're some kind of an egotistical maniac that don't understand escapism and could not admire and be inspired by others and other characters. So this whole thing is not based in entertainment or reality. It's just based on somebody else's inner world of having to be acknowledged in some kind of a way all the time. It's just so weird, and it's just not logical to me. I mean, I just can't. We can talk about that a lot, which we shouldn't because it's too long. But the point is that this whole thing, we have to push something so women or whatever could be represented, is bullshit. If it doesn't fit in the universe, it doesn't serve the lore, it doesn't serve the narrative, it should not be there. End of story. That's it.
Yeah, these people unfortunately don't reason like that. They reason more with emotion than logic. So
No, then I still don't understand the reason, because he literally said that I don't know what he meant with men and nanity, but I have two opinions. One, if you're in a brotherhood, you don't have emotions, or two, males are not humans.
No, I think it is more because he wanted to make the explanation of humanity in the sense of including both men and women, and not menanity in the sense of including only men, which betrays a complete misunderstanding of the fucking language, because humanity doesn't come from because humanity already includes both, and just going, oh yeah, it is humanity, not menanity. That means fucking nothing. It means humans, not women or men specifically.
Exactly.
Yeah, because it's called like that because we both feel emotions. It doesn't.
we feel emotions,
But
Pierce.
the
It's also over. Billions must die now.
Women don't feel what I feel.
It's absolutely
I don't-
retarded, and it's actually very insulting. But everything that has to do with left ideology is insulting to both sexes. If you watch the Barbie movie, for example, I felt insulted all the time, and I felt insulted for the men all the time. Not literally, because obviously it's a movie, but the point is that the movie is done in such a way that makes women seem super dumb and inferior to a big extent, and then it applies the same to men. So you're offended in both ways because it's so stupid, does not represent reality. And instead of saying like, oh, men and women should complement each other, respect each other, and all those things that are actually real, true, and good, they're like, no, men are bad. Also, women are also bad, but in other ways, but we're not going to tell you that. We're just going to represent them as this and that, which those things that they always represent women by are weak character traits, but they present them as amazing. So it's absolute mess. I can't even, it's toxic. What really is toxic is this type of thinking, because it's not thinking, just like we said, emotion, and then they think over emotions. So it's like walking on lava stones, but the lava is underneath, or something like that, if I can make this kind of analogy.
I just want to say that I am Kenaf, though.
Did what? I didn't hear.
I consider myself Kenaf, the meme from the Barbie movie.
You're Kenaf.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely, Kenaf. Okay, continue.
They won't change anything because Space Marines are more human than you might think. Yeah, I don't think them having emotion justifies the retcon of 35 years of established lore eons. What the fuck are you even trying to say? He then again gets to discounting the Adeptus Sororitas in general as a faction as just the woman in power armor, completely ignoring their entire nuances, orders, suborders, and all the lore that goes in it, pretty much doing a sexism.
It's that female Space Marines actually already exist, and it's the Sisters of Battle, so you should just collect that. And I would say that's a bad argument. Space Marines are incredibly diverse with a huge variety of modeling opportunities. Your Space Marines can be Vikings, they can be medieval knights, they can be ninjas, they can be blue, they can be vampires. Where if you want to collect a Sisters of Battle army, unless you want to kit bash and convert 90% of your miniatures, they're going to be corseted ecclesiastical babes with bob cuts. And I can totally understand somebody saying that they want women in their armies, but not that.
And then at the end we get one of the stupidest claims I've ever heard in my life as a lore master. That it shouldn't be the Imperium that makes female Space Marines, but Chaos, and specifically Fabius Bile.
My ladies are not officially canon the way that I've made them, more just a fun novelty. And you know what? I don't think Games Workshop should just shoehorn women into the Astartes randomly after 35 years. It'd feel too easy and not give this achievement the prominence it deserves. I think there's a better way, a spikier way, a more chaotic way. And that way is Fabulous Bill, Fabius Bile, the Primogenitor, the Clone Lord. He's been hard at work for 10,000 years trying to create his own superior Space Marines, and one day, he will do it. And how can Games Workshop prove that his Space Marines are better than the original Space Marines? By allowing men and women, twice the recruitment pool. His super people would swarm across the galaxy and bring the Imperium of mankind to its knees.
The guy that called the Space Marines as a species a genetical dead end, and decided to make his own personal species of enhanced humans called the New Men. And then he goes on to the very stupid argument that this will show how Chaos Marines are superior, because they allow men and women in them. Completely fucking ignoring the fact that the recruitment pool argument is utter horseshit. Because the recruitment problem was never tied to the recruits themselves, but the gene seed. I can bring out examples just from the top of my head about Chaos Marines raiding Imperial worlds just to steal gene seed to make more Chaos Marines. Because there is so corrupted and gene seed so scarce they can't use it.
I'm gonna go fix something, so you guys, I'm just gonna keep playing it, but I'm gonna be very quick, okay, guys?
Alright.
The second battle of Hydra Cordatus between the Imperial Fist and the Iron Warriors happened because the Iron Warriors wanted to raid the Gene Seed vaults of the Imperial Fists. Raid that would be successful and create the storyline that led to the Demonculaba. And if we want to be specific, Fabius Bile created a perfect clone of Fulgrim, that when he was captured by Trazyn the Infinite, he sold to Trazyn as a collector item in exchange for his own freedom and a shit ton of Emperor's Children untainted gene seed. So yeah, I call bullshit on this entire argument too. But it isn't the only video of Eons we had to watch. The second video we had to watch of Eons of Battle was his video Female Custodes, Games Workshop Goes Too Far, which I will specify now. It's a sarcastic title. He agrees with probably the worst retcon done to 40k in the last 2 decades. So, let's see what he says in this one.
Custodes can now be women. And the internet goes wild. I think that this is a welcome change. There's no actual reason why the Custodes have always been men, they just always have been.
And he lies from the start. There is claims in written lore that Custodes are only men. In fact, they were always only recruited, as the codexes will tell you, from the sons of the highest nobles of Terra. If you want more details, you find more breakdowns of it in these 2 videos. He then goes on to repeat some of the stupid arguments we already dismantled in the last video, so we won't repeat them, until he mentions that it makes sense that custodians exist for 2 reasons, and I still can't wrap my head around the argument he was trying to make here.
But I do think it makes a lot of sense that women can be custodians, because actually the Custodes were made for 2 reasons. They were to be the personal army of the Emperor that could actually do anything the Emperor needed them to do, and they were meant to be his personal friends, his companions. And so what's really interesting about the Custodes is they actually are aware of the current state of the galaxy versus what it used to be. They each learned the entire history of mankind and the history of the galaxy. And so they can actually see the difference between modern 40k and the golden age of humanity in the world of the 41st millennia.
Why does he try to justify stuff that can't happen by lore with arguments that have nothing to do with the lore?
Oh, but Pio, you have to understand. They make sense because the Emperor wanted female friends. Have you not seen his collection of fedoras in the Imperial Palace? The Emperor wasn't a galaxy-level conqueror that focused on reuniting and strengthening humanity. He was just a redditor in a golden chair. And even then, bullshit on the claim that they were aware of the wider situation in the galaxy. During the Age of Apostasy, they were, by lore, so isolated they didn't know a civil war had started until 4 chapters of Space Marines were fighting the forces of the Ministorum directly on Terra. blah. And even then, they had to be briefed by their chapter masters to even know what the fuck was happening and do something. He then tries to make an argument that the custodians should kill the Emperor and just take over the Imperium. I don't know why. It comes out of nowhere.
It would honestly make a lot more sense, not just women custodies, but it would make a lot more sense if the custodies rebelled and took over the Imperium of Mankind. They totally could. 10,000 custodies could rule the Imperium. I guess the reason they don't is I guess Big E tells them not to, but honestly, they'd probably be pretty good rulers. Like, in my personal headcanon of what the Emperor's actual plan was, if you've read the Horus Heresy novels, it's pretty unclear, but I do think that the creation of the Primarchs and the Space Marine chapters, or Space Marine legions, was to conquer the galaxy while the Emperor created the Webway portal. And then once he had completed the Webway, and faster than light travel was not only convenient but instantaneous, I do think he planned on using his custodies to murder all of the Primarchs and Space Marines, and then just rule the Imperium by themselves.
He then goes on to say that people are angry about the retcon of female custodians because they are just looking for something to be angry about. And they are happy of it.
People are mad about women custodies. And it kind of makes me wonder. I do think a lot of the outrage is people enjoying themselves, because few things are as fun as complaining. Oh, and when you get a great opportunity to complain.
I came in a great time. The complaining part. Because
Yeah.
this is the argument that I get a lot whenever I say anything that leftists don't agree with, leftist mindset, woke mindset, whatever. Basically that I just complain. So that's it. I'm like, there is, I mean, no intelligent person wants to complain for no reason. I say intelligent, and not a baby, not a child. I mean, we are not complaining because we have absolutely no reason for it. We're not doing it for the sake of it. Like, who thinks like that? So to me, this is
No,
shockingly dumb.
his entire point is that the people are complaining about this because they wanted something to complain about, and they're actually enjoying complaining about it.
Exactly what I said. I mean, that's what I mean. But the only people that would do that are stupid children in terms of mindset. So again, this is
Yeah.
very dumb. Talking down to your audience like that. Yeah, you have nothing to complain about. You're just children. Like, no, we have arguments and reason. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like it happens later where Major Kill discounted in his video answer all my points because, oh no, he's angry and he has a personal bias. If you are an asshole, you will be treated as one. That's the point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hated the argument that he made about the personal bias because at least you said it. You could have just not said it.
Yeah.
I mean, that shows transparency, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Indeed. Okay.
It's so much fun. You get to be angry. You get to, your heart rate gets to go up a little bit. Like, it can be really, really fun to let off steam and to complain.
Oh yeah, I for sure love getting higher blood pressure because an idiot retconned the lore with no tangible explanation, in a way that makes the existence of the Custodians as a faction something that is questionable because of their recruitment practices. He then goes on a minutes-long tirade explaining that maybe some people go too far getting angry about this, and then he tries to justify the existence of this retcon by saying that it is the task of the writer to create stuff for 40k, and we just have to either accept it or reject it.
It should be a dialogue, a conversation of where those lines are, but really, it's the author's role to come up with the thing, and then it's the audience's role to either to see it and then think whatever we want to think about it.
Completely ignoring the fact that it is still the task of the same fucking writer to make the stuff he writes make sense with the universe at large. Now, for once, I will lay down my arms for a second in appreciation of Eon's rare, extremely rare, honesty about something. Because until now his lore knowledge does not mirror the claims he made about reading all Space Marine codexes and being an expert. But he pretty much admits that the claim that not only female custodians exist, but that they always existent is a blatant lie, which it is.
Now, the reason that there's lady custodies, I do think, is probably a little pandering, because there is a rumor that other authors have wanted to do lady custodies and they've been told no because the model line was all men currently. It would have been more interesting if they were given the yes so that they could write interesting stories, where right now Games Workshop just did it. And hilariously, there's some guy at Games Workshop who's responding to people's comments, and let's come up with a name for this character. Let's call him Sean. So Sean over at Games Workshop, he's responding to people saying, since the first of the 10,000 were created, there have always been female custodians. That's a dirty, stinking lie. That is not true at all.
I hope you appreciate this compliment because it is probably the only one you will get. As soon after he says that the fact that they exist now is not a problem.
Is it a problem that they're changing it now? No. But that's a dirty, like, JK just kidding Rowling lie. That is not true at all. Is that the opinion of Warhammer? Not really, it's kind of more the opinion of Sean.
When it is not true, and I will explain it with a very simple to understand scheme. Now, the custodians recruit only from the most genetically pure Terran-born nobles, as I explained in the videos to why the female custodians can't exist. The main expert and the one that came up with the process to create custodians was the Emperor of Mankind, and under his supervision for their creation, the custodians became known as the 10,000s in just 200 years during the Great Crusade. After his entombment, the end of the Horus Heresy, and the end of the war in the Webway, where less than 1,000 custodians came back alive, it took them 10,000 years to replenish their number back to 10,000. Thing that was confirmed in the first book of Watchers of the Throne, The Emperor's Legion, where the protagonist claims that only recently the custodians are back on full strength. And this was before the Battle of Lion's Gate, where the custodians lost 2,000 of their numbers in that single defense on Terra. And this happened at the end of M41, keep in mind. Now, to explain why their existence doesn't make sense, you have to keep in mind a few small rules. The creation of custodians relies mainly, if not only, on the nobles of Terra. Now, Terra is an monopolies, with trillions of people on it. But don't be mistaken by that number. Nobility can't number in the billions on Terra. It is the same comparison that we can make between the real world and the number of billionaires. At the moment of the writing of this script in the world, there is 8.1 billion people. And yet, we have only 3,042 billionaires. It is a very small percentage of the population. So, with an EQ monopolies with at least a trillion people on Terra, best case scenario we will be at around 400 or 500,000 nobles by comparison. But we are not talking about wealth, but nobility. Nobility in the case of Terra comes directly from the Terran-born nobles and leaders of the Unification Wars. Their sons were taken to make the first custodians, both as a sign of loyalty to the Emperor, but also as hostages against their own families. Because the threat pretty much was betray, and send your own genetically modified super soldier of a son to end you. So, in this case I want to give the benefit of the doubt and say that there could be 200,000 nobles of Terra. This is the highest statistical number I am willing to concede. So, we have an extremely small recruitment pool with the custodians recruiting only from the nobles of Terra. And the children that are born in the nobles of Terra obviously come from an arranged marriage between noble families between men and women. Now, it is renowned when it comes to empires at war, and in general when it comes to conflict both fictional and happening in the real world, that men are more expendable than women as a resource. Because at a parity of numbers, you need just 30% of males left in a community to be able to have genetic diversity while making pregnant every woman in that community.
Okay guys, real quick, I'm just making sure that the puppies are fine, so I'm just monitoring them. And they're cute.
No problem.
And you guys, do you want to say something, because I paused it anyway?
Pio, you have anything to say?
Nah.
While
I was slacking.
I mean, this is very good explanation. I just wanted to... Yastus says that my mic levels are very low. There's something happening with my original software. I have no idea what. They have to... I have to watch it all the time for some reason. So, I just wanted to say before I forget my thought that just because the author writes something and our job as the audience is surely not to take freaking slop. So he missed to say that in particular.
Yeah.
Okay, we're ready.
Because men can impregnate multiple women a day, and women can get pregnant only once every 9 months. So this means that shrinking the number of the male Terran-born nobles population, as long as you don't do it to the extreme, changes nothing for the reproduction of the nobles and the recruitment of the custodians. You take just some males from every family in the pool once per generation, and the ones born after from the males that are left will make up for it. Do it with enough strategy, you will still keep the number of nobles born compared to the ones that die during the augmentation process still in the net green. So the nobles family problem is grow, because again, very many children die when they are being augmented to try and make them into custodians. The process without the Emperor has an almost 100% death ratio. If by calculations only one every year becomes a custodian. But if we follow the claim made on Twitter by Games Workshop, that not only female custodians exist, but that they always existed, you are shrinking the entirety of the recruitment pool by using Terran-born noble women that once they become custodians, after thousands upon thousands of them die, can't give any children to the nobles. Shrinking the number of males with moderation doesn't give any kind of problems to the recruitment pool. Doing it to women inevitably leads you not only in the red, but over a long span of time, leads the nobles and the entirety of the recruitment pool to extinction. And by my calculations, that would happen in around 500 years. So, this retcon actively makes the existence of custodians in general unbelievable. It has been 10,000 years that they have been using both men and women. By M32, the custodians shouldn't have been a thing anymore. And it was the job of the writer to fix this problem in some way. If he couldn't, he shouldn't have made the fucking retcon. Does this show you that their existence is a big problem? Hope so. Tangent over, let's go back to the video. And then he shows probably one of the worst mindsets to have. I kid you not. He says that a good reason to have female custodians in the setting is to set up romances between custodians.
But if two custodians were in love, that could be a really interesting way to have custodians do something wrong for a very understandable reason. So I do think it could lead to some really interesting storytelling. But yeah, it is hilarious the way Games Workshop is going about it, where
Is this guy like on some kind of drug? What is happening here?
You have to understand, we can add women to have relationships. How does he not realize how sexist it sounds?
Well, that's usually all the woke people are like that. They are all sexist and all kinds of ist all the time, but they just complain that everybody else are. But yeah, what? In love? This is 40K. What are you talking about?
Remember the Emperor didn't want super soldiers to to reproduce anyway, so...
Yeah, it is the reason he never made any females. And then, oh no, they always existed. So the Emperor is either an idiot or the writer is retarded. I think it is the second.
Absolutely. I agree.
This is Leon's. He understands my vision. Oh, so he's an idiot.
That cutscene from GTA 4 is timeless.
Yes.
I mean, one of the things that I really like about 40K is that I don't have to read aromas every 5 seconds. I mean, I love like a very good love story, but like in other things, Warhammer is not for that. I just want the whatever's happening there, the action, the multi-layered meaning sometimes, the fact that they can think deeply about the Emperor and what he wanted or whatever, the Primarchs, like my favorite topics. None of that needs to have romance interjected in it in any case. It's just super cool what it is. So you can't just put everything that exists in all the universes, because those things will not fit in there, and they will not bring up the quality of the universe. They will, I mean, if anything, it's gonna get a lot worse, and it's gonna lose its identity, because Warhammer 40K is something that's so unique. I still object when somebody says that Warhammer is just like Dune or whatever. I'm like, how is it just like Dune? It's not. It has some concepts and factions that have similar things to them, but a lot of universe do have similarities into them. That's not anything new. But people cannot understand nuance. If something has similarities with another thing, they say it's the same. They don't understand anything that's in between. Everything is like from I mean, to one end to the other, to the extreme, but no one understands like the middle. Okay, I'm done. I'm done with my rant. I'm very passionate. Okay.
they're like, "Nuh-uh, we always planned this. Always. It was always supposed to be this way. It wasn't."
Now, removing that this will be heresy on any level. The Emperor didn't want superhumans reproducing. But is it just me, or does this sound extremely sexist? He then has the courage to call the people outraged at a politically motivated change that arrived in their own hobby just by activists complaining about inclusivity, a loud minority. When the loud minority was the people that wanted this stupid as fuck retcon.
And the way people are handling it. Mostly, nobody cares. But there's definitely a vocal minority of people losing their mind who are like, I'm done with Warhammer 40K, let's boycott the company, let's burn it all to the ground. Hashtag not my Warhammer. I don't think this change actually changes anything.
And after endless minutes spent trying to justify this change saying that it doesn't matter, after I just showed you that it invalidates the Custodians as a faction at large, and trying to use the old retcons made to factions with almost no lore established as a good comparison, for a change made to a faction that by this point was established for almost a decade, with a bunch of lore written in stone, he then lies about the Warhammer is for everyone announcement, say that it was done because of the Spanish guy that showed up in the World War II German symbol, and signed himself as the Austrian painter at a 40k tournament, and won, because all other participants, weak as they were, refused to play him.
It kind of reminds me of back in the day when Games Workshop did their famous Warhammer is for everyone post, which was a little pandery, but I appreciated the sentiment because it did come right after that event where some jerk went to a convention wearing like an outfit that made everyone uncomfortable, and so everybody decided not to play him. And so Warhammer published a little article. One of the great powers of our hobby is its ability to bring people together in common cause, to build bonds and friendships that cross divides. We believe in and support a community united by shared value of mutual kindness and respect. Our fantasy settings are grim and dark, but that is not a reflection of who we are or how we feel the real world should be. We will never accept nor condone any form of prejudice, hatred, or abuse in our company or the Warhammer hobby. We will continue to diversify the cast of characters we portray through miniatures, art, and storytelling so everyone can find the representation and heroes they can relate to. And if you feel the same way, whether and whoever you are, we're glad you are a part of the Warhammer community. If not, you will not be missed. It's just basically saying don't be a jerk. It's kind of really what that whole post boils down to, in very flowery language.
While that announcement was made in 2020 during the George Floyd riots, and everyone was angry about it because Games Workshop is a UK-based company, why the fuck would they release this statement during that period of unrest in the US if not for pandering and showing support to the woke movement that was burning down cities? So, more lies in a single video. So, the torture we inflicted on ourselves with Eons of Battle is over. Mine and Pio's judgment on this guy, his models look extremely good. This guy can paint. If you want to learn how to paint, watch him. But when it comes to the lore he so much speaks about, for that, I will let my precise thoughts be expressed by Dark Viper AU.
What is wrong with you? Shut the fuck up!
Now we move to Major Kill. My opinion on Major Kill when it comes to the
Okay, before we move to Major Kill, any thoughts, guys?
Pio, what do you think of Eons of Battle?
I probably start watching it when I will paint some minis, but for everything else, no thanks.
I think in the case of Eons of Battle, it is mostly a misguided problem where he's speaking about a lot of stuff that he has very tangentially heard about. The problem is when you have an audience for being so much of a nerd for 40k that you paint minis, your words still carry significance to people. So if you're pretty much teaching people to paint stuff, they will take it as granted that you also know what you are painting in detail. So I don't get why he kept speaking about the fucking lore while knowing nothing about it. There were even comments about somebody that watched his latest video about the Black Templars painting and stuff, and they came back and they were like, yeah, you kind of have a point. You would expect somebody that has played and has liked the Black Templars as long as he says he did, at least to know something about them that is correct.
Yeah, guys. Yeah, absolutely. So, in any case, when you say anything about 40k or whatever else universe, I think you should be a bit more responsible because then people really take it at face value, as we said. So, do you want us to actually go through Major Kill because we already covered it, or?
Nah, not really. We can skip Major Kill. We already watched it when the controversy of his answer came out. So
Yeah, guys, we have a whole stream dedicated just to Major Kill just a few days ago. So it's totally worth watching. You can go and do that. So I'm gonna skip this. Let's see where we are. I think we are just after Major Kill.
yeah.
Officer Batur, one hopes that she will captain this vessel in the
knowing this guy. This one is another technically not lore YouTuber, but that tends to speak and lie a bit too much about the lore for my taste, and it is none other than Goobertown Hobbies. And before we get into the single video we were sent of him, there is a little trivia story to tell. Goobertown Hobbies was already featured on our channel, in the final section of the Female Space Marines video. In fact, we brought up one of his tweets while we were making an entire expose for the motivations of the activists trying to change the hobby. What many people don't know is that he answered under the video. He was the only one to do so, in fact, on the video directly. And to say he ended up being badly burned would be an understatement. Giulio, please read this comment.
Question. Is Goobertown a tourist who doesn't know what they're talking about? Or are they a person who has painted thousands of Warhammer models since the 1990s? It's not possible to be both. On the topic of the video, no girls allowed will always be deeply, deeply stupid. It does make sense for some chapters to be filled with dogmatic no girls allowed types because variety is good. But there is no reason for all of the chapters to be pathetic no girls allowed losers. Swinky face.
Removing that this is an appeal to seniority, because the guy might be painting from 30 plus years, but he showed even in this comment how much he doesn't fucking know about the lore, the chapters don't have a choice on who they recruit. They can recruit only males by established lore. But obviously, I didn't leave this comment alone. I gave it my answer. Oh hey, Goobertown. Finally, one of the people I shame directly shows. Shame it is you because you are one of the least interesting. But when has that stopped me from showing some truth to the people, huh? First, Goobertown, you do not know what you are talking about. It is not even a real question to ask. Just by your taking the tweet, and trust me, far from the only one I've ever been shown from you that is laughable, or even your taking this comment, you show yourself that you know almost nothing of what you are talking about. Second, it is not stupid. It is established lore on how the production of superhuman soldiers works in the 40k universe. Something you might not like or complain about doesn't make it stupid. It makes you angry to be wrong. And it is not a matter of chapter, as I explained in the video that I'm sure you didn't bother to watch, because why would a 250k YouTuber even show the most basic of respect to another content creator? It is a matter of lore of the universe, genetics of the universe, continuity of the universe, and traditions of the Astartes with the universe. It is not a choice the chapters can or will make. It is how things are in the traditionalist and hyper-conservative military society of the 31st millennium. You say variety is good. I say continuity of established lore is better. Third, yes, you were, are, and with that attitude will always be a tourist. You once again show you know nothing of the lore. So by this point I must believe that you do not care about what you paint, as long as people watch you for it. 40k fan? Nah, you are not something like that. And being a fan from the 1990s and still having this kind of take on 40k, mate, I would say it is laughable if you have been here this long. But undermining the 40k lore to this level, I will call outright pathetic if you are here from 35 years, or even 25. Hope that was helpful. Watch the video next time. Might show you some more lore to complain about in future tweets. Being a tourist is not a matter of how new you are in the hobby, it is a matter of mindset. You could be in the hobby from 30 plus years, like Goobertown, and still be a tourist, because you do not care about the property you follow and aren't really passionate about it. Or you might not be a tourist while being here just 5 minutes, because you do care about what happens to your favorite hobby. Being a newbie and a tourist are two different things. Newbies don't know but are curious to learn and understand. Tourists simply don't care. They're on this bandwagon because it is popular, and once it stops being popular, they will move to the next. And damned whatever happens to the property of 40k. It is really that simple of a distinction. But this, obviously, is not the end. We watched, once again, a video we were sent for Lord Destroyers of Goobertown. And
Okay, before we continue, I just have one point about tourists. Because yeah, you're actually absolutely correct. Tourist is about mindset and the fact that you either understand the lore of something or you don't. Now in DC universe, this very moment, everybody that are on the side of James Gunn are calling everybody else a tourist, and when you try to explain to them how he's ruining everything and the depravity and degeneracy that he is putting the DC universe and all the characters in, they tell me that I'm a tourist, and I'm like, so you don't understand the previous years of lore, like plus, I mean, comic books and everything, the principle of some characters, the principle of the universe. None of these principles exist anymore. Is that what this is? Because again, this defies logic and reason. So by this point, the hubris of the tourists is so high that they will call people that actually love and understand the universe tourists.
Yeah, by this point, it has become more of a cult of enjoyment than really being anything relating to keeping the universe in check. Because in the end, yeah, we are the people that are being marketed to with something that Games Workshop wants to sell us. But at the same time, if they start going to shit and nobody says anything, then it becomes a problem. And the tourists never say anything because they don't give two fucks about it. So
Exactly, they're just the extremely huge hypocrites and egomaniacs.
yeah.
Continue.
I will just say, as I have proved more than once by this point, I can stand liars or fools. The video Goobertown we watched was once again on the female custodies. In fact, it is named The Female Custodies and the Mental Health Benefits of Painting Miniatures.
Our patrons have a very advanced sense of humor. They keep sending us shit to watch.
Obviously, in the beginning of the video, we already have problems. He claims that the Custodians are a very mysterious faction.
Alright, so at the time of recording, people have been excited about a lore update for the Adeptus Custodes from Warhammer 40K. They went from being a mysterious and presumably all-male faction of Super Soldier Guardians to a mysterious and explicitly co-ed faction of Super Soldier Guardians.
A faction so mysterious they now got 3 codexes in a row for the last 3 editions that explain all their lore in detail. So yeah, not very mysterious for a mysterious faction. After a very long part of the video that seems more like a yoga training session than a painting tutorial, mind you, I appreciate what he says to some extent, as painting indeed does relax you when it comes to minis. Unless you are painting eyes, in that case it becomes a bit like being part of the bomb squad. But after around 10 minutes of the video he claims that nerds on the internet are angry that the gender barrier of the Custodes was broken by including women.
Now every video is also a time capsule. It's a product of the era in which it was made. If you're watching this in 2030 and you're trying to understand the comments section, well, here's some context. At this moment in pop culture history, nerds on the internet are upset about the gender barrier being broken for the Custodes, one of the 20 different armies in Warhammer 40K. Ain't never been no girls allowed, and ain't never gonna be no girls allowed.
Yes, people were angry about that, but because it is a politically motivated and unjustified retcon made literally for no one. Removing my argument of how extremely impossible with this retcon the existence canonically of the Custodians becomes. My main complaint about it is that we are ignoring great female factions and female characters just to give more attention to a feminized version of an only male faction. I want more lore on the Sisters of Silence. Fuck female Custodians. Give me books on the Silent Sisterhood. I find it more sexist to accept this as something good than critiquing it. Because you're pretty much accepting that the only way to make women interesting is by gender-bending men. If that is not sexist, I don't know what it is. And here then we see
100% sexist.
Yeah.
100%. Always pushing the male characters down so the female characters could rise. But it's always the opposite effect. It's not what is actually happening. I mean, there's literally an example again from the TV show Supergirl where they brought Superman so she can beat him up. Literally. And I was absolutely disgusted, shocked, and appalled. And he even had to say, "You're better than me, Supergirl." I'm like, what? But this makes Supergirl so pathetic. So it's not good for her, it's not good for you, it's not good for anyone. And I always prefer Superman as my favorite superhero, so it's messed up.
It is the emasculating fantasy of the left. There can be a character that stands on its own. It still needs to beat up the male one and make it pathetic just to look good. It is pretty much the reason why all fucking media having women as their main protagonist is failing. Because people don't know how to write an interesting woman without making it a girl boss bitch.
Exactly. I mean, they used to know back when Xena Warrior Princess was one of the first shows of its kind where a woman is the lead and a warrior no less, and the best warrior and all those things. But they made sure that she's written in a just such a fascinating way. She was evil first, then she became good, but that is throughout a lot of moral lessons. Hercules was there, he helped her. No one said, "Oh no, the man is helping her." Yeah, he definitely helped her, and it was amazing. And it's just profound how that show is written and how amazing Xena is and everybody that are any character really there. And when you compare that to today, is forced. Today everything is forced. It has no substance, no meaning, and is just going against everything that makes women great and everything that makes men great. So it's bad for everyone, like I've said.
I still can't understand why it's so difficult for them to write a good female character. Are they so out of touch in general? It's not that difficult. I mean, the motivations a character can have, it's almost always the same.
Yeah, exactly. And there's no reasons for female characters to have so much knowledge or power, or their abilities are not justified enough. They don't go through like a growth path so they can become whatever they're supposed to become. That's the thing. So in every character that you write, if you're a writer, you have to make sure that if they're badass, you have to know why they're badass, and they have to earn that. And then this has to transcend somehow the universe. It's really very hard to explain, but you know what I mean, guys. It has to make sense. Are you ready?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
With this claim how much this guy cares about the lore. The 30+ years old veteran tourist.
Some folks say that they're upset that the retcon was sloppy, and I do kind of agree with that. The lore update should have been paired with new models. I think that would have worked a whole lot better. Of course, by the time you watch this video, internet nerd rage may have shifted to something else. There's a whole industry of rage-bait YouTube channels aimed at nerds, and they always need fuel for the fire.
You can understand when someone understands a lot of the lore because they discount it for the models. He then goes on a tirade about internet getting angry at everything that people with original IPs change of the original IPs, pretty much ignoring that people were angry because the change was pure tokenization. There was no reason to do it, but it was done all the same, because of the message, where they keep butchering source material just for internet brownie points.
A diverse crew in Star Trek? Rage. Black Little Mermaid? Rage. Dark-skinned Aragorn on a Magic the Gathering card? Rage. Black Dwarven Princess and a Black Hobbit in the same show? Rage.
Yeah, I just despise this argument. Again, with the rage, is the same with people want to complain. It's the same type of a principle of an argument. It's like we have no reason to complain at all. And yeah, Black Mermaid, horrible. Horrible.
But generally, like this kind of argument can even be used against them, like because he's pretty much making the example that people are getting angry and nothing because oh yeah, this happened rage, that happened rage, and like he's pretty much framing it as people are getting angry at stuff that they shouldn't be getting angry about. But the reason the change that made everyone angry happened was because they were complaining about it, because they wanted more diverse bullshit. So the stuff was changed because of them, and now it is them telling to us that we shouldn't be angry about it.
Exactly. The hypocrisy. The hypocrisy.
Jesus.
Exactly. And I always joke that if there's ever a movie that's made about me for some reason, I will be played by a black girl with red hair, because all the redheads in the movies are turned into black women.
Yeah.
I mean, even that is not only Ariel. If you go back and you check, you'll see a lot of female characters. If they have red hair in whatever movie or TV show they're presented in, they're now black women.
Yep.
No logic.
I didn't know that.
Some of the worst offenders of it are like the recent series on Vikings, on the Vikings,
Oh yeah, I
where
watched, yeah.
where Netflix made Hakon Jarl, which was reportedly like one of the biggest, one of the most powerful Jarls to ever exist, and that was a normal, pretty much Viking warrior. In the Netflix series, they made him a black woman.
I watched that. I know.
Yeah.
I mean, I really like that actress in general and the gravitas that she brings on screen, but that's besides the point. She can play anything else, really not in a Viking show, because she doesn't fit the period or whatever. She doesn't fit anything. So I appreciate the actress in general. I don't appreciate that she's playing this role. This role is not for her.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the problem is actress, it's on the fucking producers.
Of course, of course. I'm not saying that she is to blame, don't get me wrong. I'm saying that
Yeah,
the
yeah. Yeah.
producers, I mean, that's by default what I mean, that the producers, they shouldn't pick these actors this way. I mean, back when I watched Xena, it's a fantasy show, it's not more historically orientated like Vikings are, although Vikings took so many liberties with history in all kinds of ways, all kinds of ways. But Xena is more exclusively fantasy. So basically, there are some historical figures there, but we have a lot of race swapping in Xena, but that was like back in 1995 until 2001. I didn't care because first, when I watched it, it was 2000 and something already, and I was a kid, and I didn't see race. Like most of the time, I didn't notice. I was just like watching the show, and all of the actors that were swapped were great actors. And in a fantasy, I would say, they're just such a great actors, okay, for the time, and it was not forced, it was super like seamless. Now it sticks out to me just because the culture that we created, that we have to point things out, and we have to make a huge deal out of them. I do think that when you do a Greek mythology, you shouldn't race swap people because it doesn't make sense. But at least in the case of Xena, everything is totally made up. So that's the only context that I can see, these race swappings, because this is like mythology, and it's not even mythology. They don't even go by mythology. If they really went by mythology like it's supposed to be, then totally do not race swap anything, but it's mixed with history and totally made up mythology at the end of the day. And Xena is everywhere because she's Xena. So yeah. I will give it like okay because it was 1995. It wasn't forced.
I remember now. There was a show, a series or a documentary on Cleopatra where Cleopatra was black, and I remember one of the experts said,
no.
"My grand," and
Yeah,
then told,
one of the
my
experts,
grandma. My grandma told me Cleopatra was black and do not trust anyone. Ah, thank you, expert.
Yeah, the precise quote is my grandma told me, do not listen to what they tell you in school. Cleopatra was black. And then you go and look into it, and she had no qualification as an historian or anything. She was literally the dumb woman listening to her very stupid grandma.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, when that was released, I made a video and that actress blocked me on Twitter. She blocked me. I'm so honored. Oh, yeah. I mean, I said many times, of course, I am very knowledgeable about Egypt and history in that region in general. I just love Egypt. One of the reasons that I'm doing my makeup the way that I do is just because I'm inspired by that since I was a little girl. So I said Cleopatra should look as close as me as possible. And that's it. All of her lineage, her ancestry, all white people, as far as we can tell. I made a ton of research about that. They're all absolutely white. She was just a Greek woman that happens to be the queen of Egypt as well. That's it. She's white. End of story. We even have some new statues, newer that were discovered recently, and before that, they all depict her in the same way. There's no doubt about it. We know how father looked like, according to the statues and descriptions. We know enough to be absolutely certain that she's white as me.
I mean, generally, that entire documentary was produced by Jada Pinkett Smith,
Yeah.
which is the wife of Will Smith. So, what do you expect by a fucking pathological liar, cheater, and to be honest, a very awful woman? What the fuck do you expect will come out of it?
Yeah, well, nothing but the worst. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Empress, the problem is the grandma of this woman told her that was black. How do you counter that?
The best source in the world, the grandma of this random woman.
Yeah, the credibility is beyond our comprehension. You're right.
She was very, very old. She knew her.
Oh, yes, because wisdom is achieved through old age. No, wisdom is achieved if you're intelligent, emotionally mature, then you achieve wisdom. Well, if you can achieve intelligence and emotional maturity earlier, you're gonna get a lot wiser earlier. And that's definitely not because of age. There's so many batshit crazy stupid people at a very old age that you could not believe are actually old. But you can see that in real life all the time. So yeah. And continue.
Princess Peach wearing pants for one scene of the Mario movie? Rage! Brie Larson and Daisy Ridley still exist? Rage, rage, rage. It's predictable and miserable and buffoonish.
He then has the balls to claim that the rage people have for unjustified and lore-shattering retcons that are happening everywhere, not only in 40k, don't understand the source material of 40k.
At the time of this recording, one of the armies in Warhammer 40k has gone co-ed, so the usual suspects have fired up their webcams. I find this brand of nerd rage to be tragic for a lot of reasons, one of which is that there's so little understanding for what the source material is all about. Of course Star Trek has a diverse cast, it's Star Trek. Humans have solved our problems and we're heading out into the galaxy to learn about new cultures. Lord of the Rings is all about inner strength, plus the power of friendship. Outward appearances don't matter, and that's the whole point. Even the smallest person can change the course of the future. And Gimli becomes friends with Legolas, and he stops being such a horrible racist. And Star Wars. This is the big one. Luke Skywalker's entire journey is about learning emotional maturity. It's not an easy journey. It takes 3 full movies and he stumbles along the way, but he gets there. Luke becomes a Jedi by confronting his fears while resisting the temptations of anger and hatred. The dark side is seductive, and once you start down that path, it consumes you. Rage bait videos for nerds prey on the worst parts of human nature. They're fueled by grievance and hatred. This is literally the dark side of the Force, and living like a Sith is not healthy. Anakin became miserable and friendless. Anakin was more of an angry little boy at the end of Episode 3 than he ever was in Episode 1.
What was that Red Letter Media said?
How does it feel to have lived long enough to see all of your favorite franchises go down in flames?
Feels great.
At the end of the video then, he has the goal to call out all the people getting angry at lore being ruined for no reason at all as clowns.
You could play some video games. Some games are relaxing, and others are a good form of mental exercise. Other games are going to spike your adrenaline and make it harder to get to sleep. Another way to use your free time is to watch some angry clowns rant on the internet. That's fun and all, but if you're not careful, you'll end up taking on their burden. Through osmosis, their childish grievances may become your own, and you'll end your day with more worries than you started with.
Because the message of this entire video is, why getting angry? It doesn't matter. If it didn't matter, why the fuck did they do it, Goobertown? They could have chosen to not do it, not ruin the lore of the Custodians, not ruin my favorite faction ever for brownie points. But why do I even bother? This guy will never watch this entire video, let alone his own section of it. So I will be as direct and blunt as possible. Goobertown, to see through the false facade of peace and quiet you use in the videos, someone just needs to go to your Twitter and see what you post. You are not fooling anyone. This retcon for you doesn't change anything because it agrees with your own politics. Stick to the fucking painting and leave to the experts that talks about the lore. They don't change anything at the end of the day. I care about my hobby and its lore, and I will call out shitty retcons for what they are. I did it with the Primaris, I did it with the Custodians, I did it for the possible retcon of female Marines. I did it in this video for all the retcons of the Grey Knights, and I will keep doing it. Because I am not a consumer. I care about my hobby. You care about minis. So stop talking about the lore you don't know, and kindly shut the fuck up. And now we move to an old nemesis of mine, Templin Institute.
Oh no.
How are you doing, old friend?
Anything to add, guys, before we move into the wonderful Templin Institute?
To be honest, it is very much laughable that when I went to his Twitter to get a screenshot to show pretty much how his facade was just that, a facade, I found, if you see the screenshot that I posted, it was a screenshot of both Goobertown endorsing the appearance of Cerberus XT into the White Dwarf series. Cerberus XT, for those that don't know, is a very popular grifter. He only paints miniatures of 40k in the colors of various LGBTQ plus flags and such. And he was complimenting Cerberus on getting into White Dwarf when it came out that he got into White Dwarf only because he knew one of the editors
moderators, so it was a case of nepotism, not a case of he was good enough. He pretty much just asked to be added into White Dwarf. And removing that, he was retweeting a tweet of Arbitorian saying, yeah, now is the perfect moment to introduce female Space Marines because of all the bullshit that was going on at the time. So the final section was Arbitorian catching strays, pretty much.
Yeah. Got it. And now this guy is one of those lore channels that defended female custodies to the end, or at least what I remember. That was, again, a year and some ago. Also covered him. So, yeah, let's just give it a go.
Thought you had escaped me years ago? Does the name Danny Fortuna tell you anything? Time for a reckoning. I will not spend much time on Templin, because really there is no need to do so. The guy is a clown and a coward in the best of days. We have watched 2 videos of his for Lord Destroyers, but as many people know, I have a past with Templin Institute from the time it announced on Twitter that it was producing the now infamous Female Space Marines video.
What about the Templin Institute?
I have passed with the Templin Institute, and what I can say is that the channel itself is just a repeat of the wiki of 40k, with all mistakes of the wiki left in it, to the levels of One Mind Syndicate, and especially the owner and host is a full-blown hypocrite. In his video about how female marines are possible, he says himself, as a lore channel, that lore doesn't matter, other than his full-blown arrogance in the video itself, where he calls whoever doesn't agree with him mindless automatons and bigots, while in the same breath asking for the debate to remain civil. The other channels I don't like personally because they get the lore wrong. I don't like Templin personally because he is at the same time as arrogant as he is a coward. As he backed down from his own challenge that he launched on Twitter about how he will destroy anybody that disagree with him about the fact that female Astartes can exist using lore. And when I myself, more than a year before this channel was created, stepped up to the challenge, he immediately backed out, because he didn't like the terms of the challenge itself, and then excused it with, I won't give a platform to a complete nobody.
You really dislike him more than other people.
Templin Institute is literally a channel of wiki reading with above average levels of editing. We watched this video on the Emperor of Mankind, and it was honestly laughable. It was literally little more than the information contained on the wiki repeated in the video itself. We made true research into the Emperor of Mankind. You can watch our video on it to know what true research into a topic looks like. The video even failed to acknowledge the place of birth of the Emperor, ancient Anatolia, which is the current-day territory of Turkey. In fact, that clip even ended in the Lord Destroyer's best-of released before this video.
According to ancient texts, the being that would become the Emperor was born some 50,000 years ago in a long-forgotten region of Terra.
Turkey. It's not forgotten. It's forgotten in 40k, maybe. But...
Long forgot.
I'm sorry, Turkish fans. Turkey didn't survive in 40k.
We forgot about you.
And let's not even speak of his video on female Space Marines. The entire video is literally, if we ignore everything that says I am wrong, I am actually correct. He spends the video lying about the lore, because it is filled up with lies. Making up scenarios that were never real, like the Emperor in the progressive time of the Great Crusade making female Space Marines.
Today, if any still remain within the chapters, they are a rarity. Furthermore,
they're a rarity. Tell me one. They're a fucking... Tell me one. A name. I want a name. Okay, a rarity. Explain to me where the fuck did you see a female marine? Where?
They are a very extreme rarity. We didn't see one.
They are a very extreme
like
rarity. Do you see this marine in this random artwork with his helmet on? Yeah, this is one is female. The Great Crusade was anything but progressive. The Emperor...
I'm sorry, but this is so funny. This is so funny. I mean, this guy just pulls things out of his butt. He's like, here is how I'm researching the lore. I'm taking my butt and I'm just pulling things out of it.
Yeah, pretty much the entire... Even at one point, it became even a joke in the video when he says that you did lore research. And pretty much we make a point. Research is a big word, Templin. Until now, this entire video has been, oh yeah, my source is that I made it the fuck up.
Yeah, my source is trust me, bro.
Yeah.
No, but I said that, but my God, if any remains within the chapters, and if they were created during the Great Crusade, it's like 10,000 years.
Yeah.
Even the general context.
No, he is wrong in all kinds of ways. Continue.
was moving a galaxy-wide war against anything non-human, he couldn't give less of a fuck about progressivism. He also spends the entirety of the video insulting anybody that doesn't agree with his view, in fact.
So if you read the aforementioned quote and decided to accept it at face value, good for you. The Imperium is always in need of easily persuaded, uncritical souls to work as leech harvesters and mind thralls.
But if you think the idea of female space marines just being a possibility, according to one interpretation, is some kind of betrayal, if this discussion has caused you to decide that the woke moralists over at the Temple Institute have finally gone too far, if even now you are furiously hitting that subscribe button, well, the tree of any YouTube channel must from time to time be nourished by the blood of misogynists, and as the saying goes, you will not be missed.
He even, as a lore expert, claims that maybe what deleted the female space marines from the history of the Imperium of Men was an ignorant decree of the Ministorum.
But at some point during the history of the Imperium, possibly because of complications with implanting gene seed, but more likely because of some ignorant proclamation by the ecclesiarchy or another imperial institution, the idea of recruiting female space marines fell out of favor.
The Imperial Church, which is renowned to every single even medium-level lore knower of 40k, has a fully fucking female army in the Sisters of Battle, but no, it is the Church, it must be sexist, so they were the ones that deleted them. And by the end of it, even with this, he has the courage to say, after having lied for an entire video on everything, after having made only comparisons that are nonsensical and outright stupid, after having shown that he considers himself smarter than 99% of the people in the hobby, if not 100%, because seeing the video, I think he is that arrogant, he arrives at the end, after spending the entire video saying that the lore doesn't matter and should be changed to be more inclusive, just to make happy the gene stealers that are always offended about fucking everything, calling everyone that doesn't agree with him a misogynist.
If even now you are furiously hitting that subscribe button, well, the tree of any YouTube channel must from time to time be nourished by the blood of misogynists, and as the saying goes, you will not be missed.
So he's missing his female viewers. Yet again, another example of he's saying that women that are watching him are misogynist, or that they're not women at all, so just men watch, which is also misogynist. So yeah, everything he says is pretty much sexist.
Generally, this video completely destroyed his credibility on any side, because it pretty much became, okay, yeah, so you agree with me or I will insult you. Like, he didn't even make like a decent argument for it. All the time he was like, what if you, like, we should ignore the lore, we should change the lore doesn't matter. Okay, then why the fuck are you advocating for this fucking change? Like, you cannot make an appeal to triviality and not expect an answer, which is another appeal to triviality.
Yeah. Continue.
Yeah, that episode gave me an headache out of stupidity.
You are better off learning the lore out of the official wiki, not from this arrogant clown. And now we move to Bricky. I couldn't have worse of an opinion on Bricky as a lore content creator as he stands now. He is literally a Games Workshop shill and a yes man. Do you guys know that he made a video on the retcon of the female custodians? And then hid it, and it is currently viewable only if you have the link to it, because he made it unlisted. The link to it is still easily foundable on Reddit.
It's a good thing I reacted to that, so I can also watch it on my video, but yeah, that was absolutely ridiculous. He was so condescending and talking down to everybody. It's like, oh, you guys are so annoying. And here is what really is happening. Meh.
Yeah, and even there he was full of bullshit. He said that, like, he said that generally, oh yeah, the lore is actually pretty cool. It's so badass. There is this female custodian that does all this great stuff, and then you look into it, and it is probably one of the worst pieces of lore ever written.
Indeed. Okay, let's continue because we have so much more. Well, we're gonna exclude the superhero section that you mentioned, that example. So is Bricky the last one, by the way?
No, the last one is Templin.
After
It's just
Bricky.
after this one. Yeah.
Okay.
Just look for the golden opinion. Funnily enough, I have nothing to say about this video, because he said the same exact stupid things that everyone else said. Why being angry? They changed nothing. Even if I show to you that they destroyed the faction from the beginning of the lore. That the lore of the Custodes included in the 10th edition with the retcon was actually pretty cool. When every single true lore master on the internet clocked that all of it didn't make any sense.
Sometimes, Adric and that kind of thing. I don't actually bring this up with anyone. I never actually talk about Warhammer outside of this whole thing because, well, unless asked to, there's such a nasty vocal minority in that community that kind of calling myself a fan of it naturally brings in ire.
The minority you don't care about?
I'm very curious of this vocal minority. Let's hear about it, because recently the vocal minority has caused pretty much every single big production and product that has tried to not appeal to it in every way possible to crush and burn. But let's hear it.
From other folks. It's so embarrassing right now. It is genuinely embarrassing to be a fan of Warhammer and looking on.
It is genuinely embarrassing to be a fan of Warhammer. Why the fuck do you talk about it? Go away. Who the fuck needs you, Bricky? To hear the shitty jokes of Adeptus Ridiculous? Who the fuck needs you, literally? There are people that break their asses off researching lore. For the next fucking video, I am reading an entire trilogy of Eisenhorn just for a single minor character for the first 2 books, which is Pontius Glow. I watched your fucking video with Lamlam about the factions of the Imperium of Men, and every 5 seconds you said something that was wrong. Even in broad strokes, you said bullshit for the entire duration of the video. You confused the Great Crusade with the Unification Wars. No, the Catan cannot be killed. When the Necrons killed the Flayer, 5 minutes apart. Nobody needs you. If you are ashamed of being a 40k fan, start doing videos on Star Wars. Go the way of the idiot that actually defended Templin Institute when he made the female Space Marine video. Just do Star Wars. Stay away from the serious lore, because you're visibly not even... You don't care about it. So, again, we reacted to all of this video in Lord Destroyers episode. Actually, I want to add that after this video came out, we recorded Lord Destroyers episode 17, which was pretty much only focused on Bricky. We not only found and were sent and reacted to pretty much an entire clip taken from Adeptus Ridiculous of him pretty much using this entire controversy to just shill his merch about it, so it was all about the money in the end. But even then, we watched his review of the second Space Marine game, Space Marine 2, and to say that the guy doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about is an understatement. There are various parts where he's simply not understanding even the plot of the game, let alone the lore. Like, at some point when the Thousand Sons appear for the first time, he's like, oh yeah, this cutscene was cool until then, and then the Thousand Sons, the Rubric Marines appear, they say nothing, and you go directly into battle. Yeah, they say nothing because the Rubrics are dust. You are dealing with automaton Space Marine. They cannot speak. After that, he goes on about the meltdown that Charon has when he charges against the Thousand Sons directly. And he's like, oh yeah, that's never brought up again. I think it was immotivated. And I was like, do you realize that the guy told in the game that he's from Cult, from the times of the Horus Heresy, that he saw the heresy start? Do you understand why I had a meltdown? Then he goes on, oh yeah, then Calgar arrives without rhyme or reason just to be good and save everyone, ignoring completely that one of the missions was reach the astropathic relay to contact Calgar. Then we have the part against the Demon Prince, where there is the cutscene where the Demon Prince of Zinch uses a spell that pretty much slows down time for everyone but Titus, because they were him and his squads were hiding behind a vehicle, and Calgar, and like he goes, oh yeah, and then Calgar just decides that he's stronger than magic and starts moving again. And I was like, did you fucking see that his Iron Halo is lit up, that he was being protected by the fucking Iron Halo? And then the funniest point of that entire review is when he goes, and then Calgar, Titus and his squad enter directly into the warp. How are they not dead? They entered the warp directly without protection. And we started mentioning people that did that, and even in the comments there was a guy that commented, yeah, he did that, like Uriel Ventris did, the guy that you made an entire Adeptus Ridiculous podcast on, the guy that entered the warp and survived because you don't instantly explode when you enter the warp. Like, the guy doesn't even know the fucking lore that he has already explained.
I mean, there was even other examples. The Abyssal Crusade, they returned. The Kaldor Drago is not imploded. And he's still there.
They entered the warp and didn't instantly die. Yeah, you actually covered somebody else that did that. His name was Uriel Ventris. Man, like, Bricky, do you remember even the Adeptus Ridiculous podcast you make? Jesus.
Yeah, probably not. He only complains and tries to be condescending and explanatory to everyone when he has an agenda. But other than that, everything that he says is fine.
Yeah. Jesus.
I will definitely watch that video, guys. I want to see. I want to see all of that you found. It's gonna be very interesting.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make pasta and watch that.
Based.
5. So expect an edit soon to land on the channel when we make the second episode of the best of. Brick is not a lore master. He doesn't even qualify as an expert. When he's not making lore up to make people laugh in Adeptus Ridiculous, that, remember, is the only one that openly claims to care about humor more than accuracy, Bricky never did, and openly makes lore videos that are riddled with mistakes, and I have proof of it, proof so heavy that it is 5 hours long. You see, I went under invitation of Lumi Angler, also known as Lamlam, on a stream with her, to watch her react to the first part of Brick is every single Warhammer 40k faction re-explained. It is a 2 hours video that it took us 5 hours to react to. For the simple fact that every 2 phrases, the third was wrong. In this same video, he even claims that the Catan were impossible to slay by everyone during the War in Heaven, just to contradict himself a bit later when he talks about how the Necrons killed the Catan Landugor, also known as the Flayer. This video is just general broad strokes on every single faction and pieces of human and non-human history of 40k, and it is filled with mistakes, missing context, and outright wrong information. Again, want proof? The stream is there, in the description. Click the link and go and watch. You can't be an expert if you are explaining the universe in broad strokes, and even then you get stuff wrong. And you can tell me it is impossible to make a video this long and still keep all info in check and correct. His part 1 is 1 hour and 56 minutes long. Our longest video is Badab War Part 3, and it is a minute shy of 2 hours. And it is 100% correct beginning to end. Even if we count both parts of the videos of Bricky, our Badab War series is over 6 hours long, and in those 6 hours, the only mistakes were typos in a couple of names. Bricky might be a 40k YouTuber, but he's very far from a lore YouTuber. That title is given too lightly in this day and age. Lore YouTubers take the lore seriously. They don't use it to farm clout and then ignore an entire retcon and fail to spot shitty lore inside that same retcon just because it agrees once again with their own shitty ideology. Once again, you are better off reading the wikis. At least they won't confuse the Unification Wars with the Great Crusade, which is a thing he did in part 1. And with this, once again, we come to the final YouTuber included in this list. And
Awesome. Okay, guys, some finishing thoughts on Bricky, and we can move to what actually Luton did that was not okay.
Peo, give your opinion.
I hate Bricky.
Good.
It's really plain and simple. After this first video we watched, I don't even know how to define it. He gets everything wrong. He's embarrassed of being a fan of Warhammer, and he makes videos about Warhammer. So I don't know why he do it. Yeah, I'm confused. Everything about Bricky, I don't know. I don't know what to. I almost don't know what to say.
Yeah, pretty much what you Pontius said. It was pretty much sufficient. So we can move on.
Yeah. I think you misclicked and you brought it back at the beginning.
Yes. I'm gonna fix it. Hold on. At least it's very easy. Okay, here we are.
you guys already know. If there is no canon, what the fuck are the books of 40k about? Is this official material or...
Yes?
Yeah, a bit too forward. This is not the beginning of the part on template on Loyalty
Oh,
story.
yes.
hours, the only mistakes were typos in a couple of names. Bricky might be a 40k YouTuber, but he's very far from a lore YouTuber. That title is given too lightly in this day and age. Lore YouTubers take the lore seriously. They don't use it to farm clout and then ignore an entire retcon and fail to spot shitty lore inside that same retcon just because it agrees once again with their own shitty ideology. Once again, you are better off reading the wikis. At least they won't confuse the Unification Wars with the Great Crusade, which is a thing he did in part 1. And with this, once again, we come to the final YouTuber included in this list. And to be honest, I don't feel well with having him here. I am talking of none other than Luetin09. Now, for those that don't know, Luetin is pretty much my indirect mentor when it comes to 40k. I learned the part of the English I speak today through his lore videos. This was very much long ago, when I was still learning about 40k. He's not here for mistakes when it comes to the lore. I clocked a few in some of his videos before I stopped watching other YouTubers, not out of arrogance, mind you. I just get tired of 40k all the time after working on our videos, but they were negligible. Typos, some confused info, a wrong date here and there. He's an expert. On him I can say it openly. But unfortunately, expert or not, smart or not, correct or not, nobody's 100% immune from having dumb opinions.
What kind of dumb opinions?
You see, Luetin in April 2020, which was still the period where I was watching him, released a video called Canon and Retcon are not a thing in 40k. Pretty much the entire video is spent on saying that the lore has and will change often, that there is no confirmed canon, that canon by itself doesn't exist in 40k, but I hope that I don't need to specify how dumb of an opinion this is when it comes to a universe following a prescribed narrative. And that has spent more than a decade building up series of books like the Horus Heresy. You want to tell me that you, a lore channel, believe that a universe that follows a canon for various events that have happened in the past and that will happen in the future has no canon, Luetin? Then I must ask two questions. One, you guys already know. If there is no canon, what the fuck are the books of 40k about? Is this official material or just overpriced fanfiction by this point? Do I need to read this to be a 40k lore expert? Or they are just useless stuff and I can make up in my mind what I want and say that it is canon because 40k has zero canon? But more importantly, Luetin, explain to me, if there is no canon, what the fuck is all this? You are telling me that you, a lore YouTuber, somebody that I was fond of and that was my initiation to the universe, has spent so much time researching, narrating, editing and publishing these many lore videos without even believing what you yourself were saying in them? How should I take them seriously, knowing that you think that there is no canon? And yet you make videos following the canon lore of 40k.
This is fucking tragic. Look at yourself.
And if this was the only problem, I could just discount it as the stupid opinion held by an expert. But in episode 14 of Lore Destroyers, we watched his latest video about the Terminus Decree retcon in the lore. I am not joking with you. The entire video is an over an hour long cope session to try and justify lore that makes no sense. Luetin knows of Basilio Foe and the Terminus Sanction. He says so himself in this video. And yet at one point, he even tried to justify this retcon with the unreliable narrator excuse for a codex. Codexes don't have in-universe narrators. Trust me, I know. I studied them religiously for all of our videos. And in this same video, Luetin shows that even this idea is wrong by itself. His claim is that this new lore, retcon as I call it, because Luetin refused for the entire video to admit that it is indeed a stupid retcon made by people that don't know the lore but feign being lore writers, can be explained as just an administratum clerk misinterpreting what the Terminus Decree is.
And the more we dive into it, the more strange it becomes, because even if it was intended as some kind of misdirect, as can happen in 40k, some imperial adept made a vast misinterpretation of whatever avatar you want to use as an unreliable narrator, we return to that question of, well, should that be happening in a codex? I mean, I feel like probably not, but on the other hand, I guess it's kind of established for the longest time that codex books can do that. I think my first rebuttal to that point, though, would be sure, but in the past there was a lot more focus on a codex being like a delivery system for lore.
That is 100% impossible. The Terminus Decree is a secret order given to the Grey Knights to be kept in custody in case the Imperium was ever on the point of falling and being destroyed. It is pretty much a secret last resort. This secret last resort is not known in the general Imperium of Men, let alone in the Administratum. In fact, canonically, before the stupid retcon, nobody knew what was written on it. Because the only person that knows that it exists and knows how to access it, and that can call for the Terminus Decree order to be put into effect, is Kaldor Drago, the current Supreme Grandmaster of the Grey Knights. But pay attention, he knows it exists. Not even he knows what the fuck is written on it. So, how in the hell did an Administratum clerk misinterpret something that nobody knows exists? And if they know it exists, don't know what's written on it? Luetin! I am sorry to say it, mate, but this opinion alone puts into doubt the entirety of your repertoire of videos. Because if you don't believe that there is canon lore, timeline, and series of events to follow, think about it. Why should I trust anything you say? Right or wrong, it doesn't matter. It creates a doubt that you might not be telling the full story, because you don't believe in canon. Thing that is reinforced by your claim in the video about canon, that people critique you because they don't find you impartial.
It's always interesting on YouTube how you as a producer can put together a video, but never quite imagine the reaction that it will get. My Tau video turned out to be one which was unusually triggering for many. Generally, this was because I presented it from an Imperial perspective, one that painted the Tau in a more negative light than their hopeful forward-looking perspectives, from their perspective. The reason I did this is because, generally speaking, the lore of 40k is presented from an Imperial perspective. It's not about bias, it's just how it is. Also, and I would fully admit that I did a bad job of illustrating this, it is an ongoing joke with me that I hate the Tau passionately, and I thought that perhaps my tone and just general disposition would be enough to convey that message, but I was very clearly wrong. Anyway, my point is, I would hope that by now people understand I don't have an inherent overarching bias in 40k. I mean, for one, I own like 4 different armies, okay? 2 are Imperium, and to just save answering the comments, the armies are Ultras, Eldar, Sisters, and Chaos. I'm hopeful that people can see I don't have an explicit bias, mainly from the fact in the past few years I have repeatedly noted how the Emperor is, to put it bluntly, a bit of a dick. I will also juxtapose this with other instances where I present the Emperor as being the godly, all-powerful saviour of mankind. So, look, I really feel it should be clear by now, but that's of course never how things go. I mean, we can always say it's impossible to be truly impartial, and I would say, of course, that is true.
It is not this hard to be impartial. Arbadab War series has been praised more than once because it shows the good and the bad of both sides of the war. It isn't just Imperium good, Euron bad, Euron heretic. We spoke of all the injustices that the Astral Claws and the Warders suffered. Many people commented that they didn't know of all the crimes some of the lowest chapters inflicted against the Warders of the Maelstrom. You just need to say the whole truth. It is not your prerogative to give an interpretation to canon and clear lore. We are lore YouTubers. Our duty is to explain the lore as clearly and unbiasedly as possible. We are not here to give our opinions and masquerade them as canon. We can make theories. I myself did so. Fuck, my theory on the Ghost Razors of Euron being the reason he fell to Chaos made Reddit go crazy for a few months. But still, my duty, and by definition your duty, is lore first, theories second, opinions third. That is it. Viewer.
Okay, I just want to add, that's very correct, lore, theories, opinions third. The one thing that I noticed when I entered 40k, because I did watch a lot of lore channels and Luton was the most prominent one, is how important it is for us to read our own books. Because if you're a casual fan, you just rely on the lore, how people say it, how people understand it, because you are trying to be impartial. I know that. And I also try to be impartial, but there are some interpretations that are inferior to others. And again, here comes the thing where we have to be careful how we phrase facts, theories, opinions. It has to be clear that what we are saying is either a lore fact, opinion, or a theory. But again, I was a bit disappointed in Luton. Because when I read all of my books and with my background of understanding what the author would say and everything else that I know about literature and how to analyze it, I was a bit disappointed because he didn't actually brought the information like it is, not all of it. I cannot say a particular example because I don't remember. There's so many videos of Luton and so many things that I've read and books and all of that. But the point is that the overall impression that he gave me about certain things was absolutely so incorrect, but for others it wasn't. And the universe from his point of view and delivery was a bit romanticized in a way. That is something that I noticed with others, like Wolf Lord. He is one of those YouTubers as well that talks about Warhammer 40K with such romanticism in his voice. And each and every one of these lore creators, they give you different impression of 40K. That's not necessarily a fact or true representation of 40K. It's a part of it, and to an extent is true, but to some extent it's not. So again, if anybody, of course, wants to get to Warhammer 40K, wants to get into it, you have to get your, you have to watch lore channels, okay, so you get the whole idea, but still, when you get recommendations for books, just read your own freaking books and make your own mind about what 40K is and the different things about 40K. That's what I want to say, because it's just very important to note, especially coming from a new perspective, like 5 years ago, how I felt about the universe and the lore.
Yeah, generally, I think the lore YouTubers, unless they are extremely specific, like it happens with some of them or even us, are to be taken with a grain of salt and just as an introductory idea to the universe, not really as lore compliant, because people pretty much spreading around misinformation about myths has even touched us in a specific condition, which is even we believed pretty much the war hymn of the Lamenters to be "For those we cherish, we die in glory," only for recently to be found out that it was a 15 years old myth that was being spread around on Reddit from more than a decade. It was one of the few things in the entirety of the Bad War series that we didn't double check, because we were like, it has been around so much, there is no fucking way in hell that it is made up. It was fucking made up. So
yeah, things like that happen. But okay, yes. Continuing, we have just a bit more.
Do you want to know why in every single lore video we ever made, we leave the sources we used in the description? There is two answers to that. Firstly, you can check the lore we explain in the video with your own eyes, read the source material, and learn the stuff we didn't say in the video because it was not relevant to the argument we chose to talk about. Pretty much to learn the whole story by yourself. And secondly, because if we are wrong, we want people to have the means to prove we are wrong. You think one of our theories is wrong? Read the sources, tell us why. You find a mistake? Read the sources. Tell us where. Lore YouTubers aren't infallible, but they must strive to be at all times. And a critique I will move to Luet in 09, but especially to all the others mentioned in this video, is that they are guilty of creating a culture of toxic positivity for 40k. All of them refuse to acknowledge retcons. All of them refuse to acknowledge shitty lore. All of them refuse to call out Games Workshop for the dip in quality that the lore had after the addition of the Primaris. Why? We all love the same thing. We must show that we have standards. We are not slop consumers. We need to call out Games Workshop, a multi-billion-dollar company, and their highly paid expert writers for writing utter bullshit more often than not. Games Workshop has ditched any kind of quality control at this point. The lore is going actively to hell, and the biggest names of the 40k lore community refuse to acknowledge it.
That's very bad behavior.
It is not only bad, it shows weakness to not even say out loud when someone is actively wrong. And this brings me to the final argument I want to talk about in this video, which is that the majority of these YouTubers fail to see the Imperium as a necessary evil for the survival of humanity. In fact, they see the Imperium of Men either as evil as the others, which they aren't, or in the case of some of them, like Eons of Battle, worse than the others in the setting. Now, I explained in detail what made humans what they are now in my video The Imperium are the good guys of 40k. It is an hour-long video and it is considered one of the best introduction to 40k from the point of view of humanity. This comes from the comments under the video, not from me. But because there are still people that don't understand the context of existence of humanity in 40k, I have decided, for the sake of the so beloved media literacy crowd, to use an example to explain the concept of grey morality and necessary evil that might be a bit easier to understand. In fact, we will go in comic book territory. We will talk of my favorite DC anti-hero of all time.
Okay, maybe we shouldn't get into that part in particular.
Well, it is pretty much just a part to show the difference between gray morality and being just evil, because it is the difference that these people don't seem to fucking understand.
Yeah, but again, there's some things that are not, as you know, they're not, correct from the comic books. So the point
I
is
mean,
that
I mean, there is one, but even in that case, it is generally more of. I never said I'm an expert when it comes to comics. I just read some. So
I know, but the point is, guys, that of course you can go and watch this video alone if you wish. Uh, Although it's so freaking so freaking long, but it's amazing. So go watch it. Go watch the whole thing. I think that 3 hours going over everything is pretty sufficient. What do you think?
yeah, no, it is fine.
All
Yep.
right, guys. I mean, finishing words basically. We are 3 hours and 30 minutes in. Pontius and Pio didn't sleep much. I didn't sleep much. I can
It's-
eat a bowl of spaghetti right about now. I'm so hungry I can't even see.
Anyway, it's not that I didn't sleep much. I didn't sleep. Just
Even worse, even worse. But
I
yeah,
know.
the point is, guys, because I do want to say something real quick to finish this, because there are going to be some people that are going to say, why are you talking about other creators and such things? I think it's important, not in any malicious way, just in a normal, constructive criticism kind of a way to point when things are not okay with some other YouTube colleagues' delivery, because like we established so far, it is wrong to say things that are harmful to the lore or to certain community, because this is manipulating people's opinions. This is creating misinformation, and this does have a lot of consequences in the current time and in the future, because we also have the knowledge and the view of creators, and when we see people in the comment section directly stating lies or misconceptions about a particular thing that we love, in this case is Warhammer 40K, because they had their minds totally altered by other creators, that creates an overall problem. So on principle, there's nothing wrong with calling out when something like, calling out people when they have certain positions that are harmful to actually other people. It's harmful to the way that you think, because they are altering the way that you think. So it's not just about the hobby or whatever we're trying to protect. It's also about literal human beings that all of a sudden have their minds changed. And even though, even sometimes their whole ideology about the world, because hobbies these days, entertainment, that is the stage of a lot of propaganda that affects now the real world, because it comes from politics, it comes from real life, political world, which I really, really despise, and we have to deal with it within our own worlds of escapism, which is wrong. So we kind of feel morally obligated to call out these people. I called out, like I've said, Endymion, even Arch, when he did that with Warhammer, because I was like, Arch, I understand that maybe the show maybe will not happen, but the way that you're phrasing this, it just doesn't sit right with me, because it's so obvious, especially when you try to have the views about something, to get the YouTubers viewership, and to push it so aggressively that this or that is not gonna happen. It's for sure. It's like a fact now when it didn't even happen yet. It's just not okay. I find it disingenuous, and I find it very highly manipulative. Maybe it's not like completely on purpose. I'm not throwing anything at Arch in particular, but I'm just saying sometimes as creators, people could make maybe these mistakes if it's like systematically. I am calling it. I'm calling it like maybe this is just the type of person that you are if you're doing this systematically, because as Pontius also said, if you create a video that takes a lot of time and thought, and you do and you just promote particular type of delivery and a behavior, this is you then. This is how you chose to present the information and yourself by extension. So that is why. And I always call out in a more civilized manner people that are not that woke, and in still civilized manner, but I'm gonna call out the people that are super woke, like the beginning of the video, those guys. I mean, in the middle and whatever, mostly like Bricky, like Tempo Institute, that are so insulting to the audience. Of course, that I'm going to be more harsh with them, but in general, I also try to be fair, and think that Pontius is also trying to be as fair as possible. So yeah, that's from me. That's what I wanted to say that, because there's so many people that are going to be like, who are you to tell us this and that? We are just people that really care about the lore and our universes that we love. I'm in a few more universes that I love, and I see how they go to shit. So when we talk about them,
Yeah,
we try to
generally at
protect
this
them.
point I have changed even how I see these kind of things, because at one point I was of the opinion, like many people are, with pretty much going, don't assume malignity where what happens can be explained by ignorance. But at this point, after having seen so many lore videos by so many different people, so many of these guys and such, at this point, assuming ignorance is completely fucking impossible. The only thing I can assume is malignity, because they are not even doing like small mistakes here and there, weird assumptions, or just giving their opinions. They are actively being wrong constantly, so just so they can make an argument that they could not make if they were right. So
Yeah, that's a very good point. Okay,
like
guys.
if you have to lie to appear to be correct, then at that point you are not correct, period. I don't have to trust what you say.
Exactly. And you have the facts to back your points, and it's not based on your emotion. I mean, you have emotion about this, but it's supplemented first by your thought. So that's the difference. Okay, guys, there's much more to be said about those things, but of course, we gotta go. Please check the Pontius channel, where you will also find Pio and their series The Lore Destroyers, and every video actually that they made, because it's so absolutely worth it. Please read your own lore. And yeah, guys, see you next time. Anything else to say? I want to give you the word one last time, and then we go.
No, I'm fine. I think I said everything. Pio, you have opinions?
No. right now, no. But
Okay.
yeah, I started as Pontius on that. I just didn't care. Then I watched all of that and I said, "What the fuck are they to say?"
Yeah, pretty
Wait,
much
what?
we started as okay, there are other YouTubers, they are doing their own thing. Then we started seeing how malicious they were in doing their own thing, and we were like, okay, no, we have to talk about this.
Exactly how I felt. I mean, the woke stuff, when they got through Warhammer 40K, then I started to talk about that, because I'm like, you're not stepping into this universe. Absolutely not. You're gonna hear from me. And of course, the Euro and everything else. So I started talking about everything that I care about, the DC universe and the superhero stuff, and the gaming, of course, because oh my gosh, the gaming, it's better.
And it's fun. And I have a fun fact before we go. That everyone is saying that Danny is angry and is aggressive at these people. While we were writing the script, I was the one that was being aggressive, and then it was we can't say that.
Yeah, pretty much. I was like, Pio, are we going too heavy on some of these people? And there was a long pause. Then I don't think we are going heavy enough. You should insult them even more directly. They deserve it.
Yeah, I am the one that is aggressive of the two.
Yeah, and to be honest, even the fact on the volume, oh no, this guy is angry. Why is he so angry? For Italians, that the version you see in the video of me, that's for Italians, is mildly annoyed. Being angry will probably break my microphone. Pio knows how I am when I'm angry. I don't think my microphone will survive the volume.
That's super cool. That's super cool to know. You guys have a great reputation in terms of passionate expression.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. So let's go. Let's all go eat spaghetti. I'm really so hungry, guys. I can't even explain. So let's go eat spaghetti and pasta, literally or not, or later. And see you guys. We're gonna talk about these things in general. Go check Pontius channels. Okay, love it. With me, the 40K Empress, and the Pontius and Pio. Bye.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
The 40K Empress leads the way as warriors of the imperium sway into realms where dangers play, where hidden minds hold sway. Through stars and storms we rise, under her watchful eyes, with faith and fire will prevail, for the imperium must not fail. For the imperium we prevail. Beneath the grand cathedral spires, plots twist like smoldering fires, but with her blade of pure desire, she claims the stars entire. Through stars and storms we rise, under her watchful eyes, with then fire will prevail, for the imperium must not fail. For the imperium we prevail. Through storms and battle cries, her banners pierce the darkened skies. With bolter hymns the traitor dies, as loyal warriors arise. Saints and psychers bend the flame, every world speaks her name. The Empress rules without shame, as war she does reclaim. Through stars and storms we rise, under her watchful eyes, with faith and fire will prevail, for the imperium must not fail. The imperium we prevail. The warriors march with sacred might, their purpose burning crystal bright, to lift the throne world from its plight and guard humanity's light.